in this monkey form now, Frankenstein?
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it. Farabelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
What would be your list sucks? Episode number something, top 100, blah, blah, blah. Scott, you won last week. This is the part of the episode where I ask you a vague question about this week's list. You give me a vague answer. Go.
Wow. A little grouchy tonight. I did win last week and the week before that and the week before that and the week before that. I believe if I'm counting correctly, I believe I said last week that it was going to start to go downhill, but then afterwards I looked at my list and I was like, yeah, I think I'll probably actually win this week too. But who knows? Spence was close. Spence was close last week, so we'll see.
Rue, same question.
I feel like from here on out, I actually objectively have great or better movies. From here on out, it's just taste between you and me. So I'm feeling confident today.
Jake, sound off.
I feel pretty good about this week. I feel like Scott's going to have like Citizen Kane and Vertigo on his list, and you're going to pick his, but whatever.
Spence is also here. Spence, say something.
Perhaps.
That's not something.
That's good enough for me. All right, let's get into it. We're into our top 40 this week. And we're continuing on this week with the regular Your List Sucks rules. We'll keep that up for the next couple weeks. So we'll get to the top, around top 30 or so. Then we'll get to talk a little bit more. But, for this time, we're still going to keep a little bit condensed, a little bit tighter on everything. So, Scott, we're going to start with you. Your bottom three. Your number 50 through 48, please.
All right, my number 50, the heartwarming classic, Midsommar. My 49 is, I said last week I'd have a chaotic Star Wars take. Here it is, my favorite Star Wars movie, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Yikes to this episode.
Hey! Wow, I wasn't expecting that. And then my 48, my favorite action movie of all time, Speed.
All right, go ahead and talk about Midsommar and Speed.
Midsommar. Ari Aster, I think, is one of the most visionary directors working today. Hereditary, I think, was a really great movie that just kind of like stumbled at the final hurdle, showed a lot of potential for him, though. And then Midsommar, to me, was just like him recognizing all of that potential. It has that great daylight horror, which is super unique. The setting is like very expansive, but also claustrophobic at the same time. Like he does a great job of making you feel like, even though it's like these wide open, lush fields or whatever, that, they're just kind of like trapped here. The production design is amazing. Like the way all of the different interiors of the buildings and everything are designed. But also, like, there is so much going on beneath the surface in this movie. It's about like this toxic relationship and sort of the way that spirals out of control when these two people who should have separated, should have broken up their relationship a long time ago, continue to remain in a relationship, and just sort of the microaggressions that build up. Particularly that he's lobbing at her, but also I think the third act of the movie gets even more complex. And people who say this is a good for her movie, I think that's an oversimplification of what Ari Aster wants from this last act. But Florence Pugh is absolutely incredible in the movie. Like her emotional range is just amazing. Like her crying at the beginning, in the very beginning sequence of the movie, like is some of the most believable, like haunting crying I've ever heard someone do in a movie. And the way that Aster uses that sound at the end of the movie to all of a sudden represent like this euphoric moment for her is brilliant filmmaking. So I love Midsommar. It's just a fascinating movie that I've seen several times now. 48 Speed. Like I said, this is my favorite action movie of all time. It's just like pure adrenaline, pure fun from beginning to end. It starts out in that elevator, rescue sequence, which is, just so much fun to watch. You have Dennis Hopper just like eating the scenery as this mad bomber. Like he's just eating his sandwich, watching football, yelling at the TV. Like it's just awesome. Keanu Reeves, like, is at his charming best. Like he just has the right amount of cheesiness to it. It was a great era for him. I love Sandra Bullock as well. It's one of her most charming performances as the bus driver here. Joss Whedon's dialogue is just like so quotable. Like every scene has, just some lines that really snap. In addition to obviously the setup of the movie just being very clever, built to, provide unique thrills. The practical effects are fantastic. It just like sustains so much momentum from beginning to end. And it's, it's a real crowd pleaser. Like if you don't cheer along with the bus passengers when they jump the gap in the road, and safely make it, like what are you watching movies for? Like that's what it's all about, in my opinion. The only thing I don't like about the movie is the last line. It's a terrible last line, but the rest of the movie is perfect.
What's the last line?
So he says to her, "I've heard that relationships based on intense experiences don't usually work." And she says, "We'll just have to base it on sex then."
That's funny.
I like it.
It's all something. Right. Midsommar is a movie I like. I personally like Hereditary more. I'm a bigger fan of Hereditary. I like Midsommar. I thought it was good. Like the atmosphere, the world building. I thought it was just brilliant to make them like these characters is kind of like a lot of gymnastics they do to make these characters okay with what's happening from the beginning. And the way they do that really works. The way they make them sociologists, kind of give them that like cold perspective of what's happening, that like scientific perspective, so they can go on the rest of that journey. I thought was really great. It's fantastic. For me, it's in spite of Florence Pugh, not because of her. I'm just not a fan of her in general. This movie specifically, like I'm very on board with Jack Reader. I'm like, I would have dropped this chick as soon as possible because there is like,
hey, Todd. What the fuck?
Yeah. What is happening?
She's just not somebody I would want to be around, and I don't blame anybody in this movie for not wanting to be around her. I felt bad for her, but it's not enough to put up with all that. This is a movie. You talked about Hereditary kind of breaking down the third act. This one kind of does for me too. Like it gets so ridiculous. There's certain scenes in this movie at the end. I'm like, am I supposed to be laughing? This is supposed to be humorous. I don't know. So it's a strong horror movie. Like I said, it's not my favorite of his, but it's good.
The answer is yes. You are supposed to be laughing.
Am I?
He wants that. Yes, okay. I believe that at least.
All right. Well, then there you go. And then we're talking about Speed. Speed's fun. If we're top 100 movies of all time, nah. Top 100 action movies, definitely. There's a lot of cool stuff. The villain, what's his name? The villain is great. It's just a fun setup. It was almost like a Die Hard. Like they did a bunch of like Speed on after this. Even though this was Die Hard on a bus, this was like the next evolution of that. It's a lot of fun. I remember this came out. I think was this 94, 93?
94.
94. Yeah, I remember I saw this in the theater. Like me and my friends in high school went and saw this like 3 or 4 times. Like we had a blast with it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I personally don't think it belongs in the top 100, but it's not something I want to kill you for. So that was the only 2 you're talking about. We are moving on to Spence for your bottom 3.
I'm just really mad at your takes. I'm mad I can't say anything.
About this. You don't get to talk about this.
My number 50 is Moana.
Here he comes.
That was last week. Wow. I got top of it. My 49 is Shakespeare in Love. My 48 is Easy A. Moana. Not like the best Disney movie, but pretty close. I think it's like the perfect evolution of the Disney princess story of giving her more independence while also maintaining some of the classic tropes. I think she's great. Maui's great. The movie has 2 flaws, really. One dumb Twitter joke and Tamatoa. But even then, like, it's funny bad. This is a movie I've seen like in abundance at least 5 times over the past 5 years, and the fact that it hasn't, I've gotten tired of it, and it's like continues to age like fucking wine. Great sign. Honestly, might even go higher over time. Shakespeare in Love, maybe the movie that's gotten burdened the most by winning Best Picture. I'll tell you right now, Saving Private Ryan, not above it. Why? Because this movie is fucking incredible. I forgot where I mentioned it, but I've said somewhere recently. It was on Logged It with Scott on Monday or yesterday. You should go watch it. If you give me a really well-written rom-com where I like the characters, I'm an easy sell. I'll fucking watch. And I love the characters in this. I think Will and Viola are both like really engaging protagonists, which you wouldn't expect from the Lesser Fines and Goop Girl. But they're awesome in this movie, and I love how the relationship develops. And telling the love life of Shakespeare as an analogy of Romeo and Juliet that is also sort of a parallel to Twelfth Night is so fucking brilliant. I love what Tom Stoppard did as a writer. I don't get how people hate this. This is awesome. And Easy A. I like coming of age films. Emma Stone is fucking awesome. Having never read The Scarlet Letter, I have to hope the themes are adapted pretty well. But even just as it is, I think it's just really entertaining, even down to the fact of just like the characters who you normally like wouldn't really give a shit about in coming of age movies, like the teachers and the principal, fucking awesome. Everything with Thomas Hayden Church and Lisa Kudrow is so fucking out there and weird that somehow also like makes sense in the universe the film set up. I don't know how it works so well, but it does. And again, Emma Stone can do no wrong. Olive is an incredible protagonist, and I love seeing her journey in this. One of my go-to coming-of-age films to watch.
All right. Moana, strong pick for as Disney, like especially modern Disney animation. This is really solid. The animation is fantastic. The music is great. It's a lot of fun. It's a fun adventure story. If you're gonna pick like a Disney animation movie, like a traditional Disney animation movie for the past 10 or 15 years, this is just as good as any. I mean, it beats Frozen, it beats all that stuff. So yeah, I'm not going to complain about that one. Shakespeare in Love. I rewatched this for the first time a couple months ago. I hadn't seen it in a while, and yeah, you're right. Had this movie not won the Oscar, we wouldn't talk about it as much, but we'd talk about it a lot nicer. I personally think Saving Private Ryan should have won, but I also don't think Saving Private Ryan is like some like untouchable all-time classic that needs to be revered and honored. I don't think this is like the greatest Oscar, win of or the worst Oscar win of all time or anything like that. It's a solid movie. I love just like that idea of taking Shakespeare, which is something we think of as like so like grandiose, and like just bringing it down to like the dirty ground. Like it starts out with the owner of the theater basically being shook down by his loan shark because he can't pay his bills, and that kind of sets the tone for the entire movie. It just kind of flips what we think about Shakespeare and what that time would have been, completely flips it on its head. The relationship in the movie is to me a little weak. It's kind of like just like because movie kind of relationship where they just fall in love way too quick. That said, the stuff in the third act where they're on stage is really good together. And I'm a big Shakespeare nerd, so I love like all like the Shakespeare Easter eggs. That's a lot of fun for me. So I enjoy it. I'm not going to I killed Brian for this because I hadn't rewatched it when he had on his list. So I apologize to Brian because I've rewatched it and it's not that bad. Easy A, on the other hand,
great movie.
Is
Great
pretty
movie.
bad. This is first of all, I'm watching this movie and I'm like, would it really be this big a deal in a Southern California 2010 school for a girl to lose her virginity? Like, why is this such a big deal? This doesn't make sense. Then I read up on the movie. I realized that the screenwriter was homeschooled, never actually went to high school. And after that, the movie retroactively made a whole lot more sense. I think this movie is like thinks it's a lot more clever than it is. It's trying to be like those 80s John Hughes movies. Emma Stone's good and everything. The stuff with her, Stanley Tucci, like the stuff with her family, that's the best part. That's a lot of fun. But overall, I just wasn't feeling it. Going to move on now to Rue for your bottom three, Rue.
All right. My number 50 is Toy Story. My number 49 is Coco. And my number 48 is a yikes from a previous episode. Oh, brother, where art thou? All right. Toy Story is the one of the most successful starts to one of the most successful studios ever. It showed that animated features can hit for both adults and for kids. Every time I go back to it, I always forget how absolutely hilarious this film is. And the specifically the conversation between Woody and Buzz under the truck at the gas station when he yells, "You are a toy." That is, it's really fucking funny. But even more than that, the arc that both Buzz and Woody have in this film is pretty damn great, especially Woody, because you realize Woody's an asshole. Woody is 100% an asshole, and by the end of the film, you actually still, it's Tom Hanks, so that helps. But you enjoy, you still enjoy him. You like somebody voiced by Tim Allen more than Tom Hanks throughout the film. And that's a yes. That's a star in itself. But I love Toy Story. Yeah, even with the animation that doesn't hold up as well, the story is more than enough to pull everything through, and it's always an enjoyable watch when you go back to it. Number 49, Coco. First and foremost, the fact that we have chanclas on scene being threatening little kids makes my Latino heart just soar with pride. But other than that, it's just a beautiful damn film. Visually, it's beautiful. The songs are beautiful. The performances are beautiful. The story that actually Hector's story more than anybody's is just heartbreaking and just lovely to hear. And when he goes understanding the ideas behind the people in the afterlife when they're going through Day of the Dead, and like that people disappear when nobody leaves your picture on ofrenda. So when his friend disappears, that he's looking for the guitar. Again, it's ultimate. Pixar is making you cry while you loving the film all at once. And then they throw in crazy Frida Kahlo on top of that, and it works. And they're able to just blend humor and things that kids will love with themes that adults can connect to. And this is one of this is Pixar at its best, on top of just representing an entire community, which is always great. And then 48, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? One of the only Coen Brothers films that from jump, I just enjoyed. From beginning to end, you love every single character. You love the dynamic between Clooney, Tim Blake Nelson, and John Turturro. The fact that they balance each other out, because George Clooney can be just real pompous and over wordy, but Tim Blake Nelson and John Turturro going at him or trying to defend him at the same time kind of allows all of that to work, because anytime you get annoyed by him, the other two kind of bring him down a peg. The amount of one-liners, I'm a Dapper Dan Man, just everything about this movie is fun, and it throws you curveball after curveball, even though you know it's based off of the Odyssey. And you're just there for every new crazy thing that happens, and it's hilarious. And the music is fire. I don't like country music, and I have this CD on a repeat for a long time. I love everything about the film. It's really dope. And then I think somebody else had Oh Brother.
Yeah, who else had this one?
I had a lot lower. Bruce said everything I could say about it, so what I'll say is it's my favorite Coen's comedy. Again, they're not like a super consistent directing duo for me. I don't love all their films. This one really works for me, though. The thing people always point out about it is like how it revolutionized visual effects with its color grading and everything. And I think the movie ages really well with that. But also, I think the fact that you can sit down and analyze a comedy like this and not just be like, oh, it's funny for this reason, but break down its historical influences and how each part of its story comes from like a different part of America, and even the Odyssey. It's so interesting. I think it's a fascinating film to watch and study, which is a bonus for me.
All right. Let's go back to Toy Story. Yeah, I mean, this did a great job, like you said, Rue, of just kicking off Pixar. I mean, it really set that tone of just the world building, the characters, the humor, blended with like the emotion, like the connection you have to like these weird things that Pixar tends to focus on, people and things that you really wouldn't assume there'd be a story for. They create that. That's really good. Sure, the animation has moved on a little bit, and I think they have improved a lot of areas. But you go back, and this movie still holds up to me. It's the second best one, but it's still really good. Speaking of Pixar, Coco, I love Coco. This is definitely top 5 Pixar for me, maybe top 3. This does exactly what I want a Pixar movie to do. It's amazing animation, just mind-blowing world building. The fact it takes like that culture and that mythology and makes that world around it. It's just peak Pixar for me. The music is amazing. All the characters are really solid. The story is really good. Just him, his character arc and looking for his dad and finding out who, or his granddad, who he really is so great. That the ending is just heartbreaking, and just fills you with so many emotions. And like you said, it balances that perfect balance between humor and emotion. That both, I think, what they do here, when Pixar's on point and they hit that where it's emotional and it's humor and those are both for kids and adults and everybody can enjoy all of it. And this is like the perfect example of that. So Coco's a really good pick. And Oh Brother, this is probably it's top 3 Coens for me, second or third. I really enjoy this. You mentioned Spence, the color palette. I love how this movie looks. I am also not a huge fan of all of Coen's comedy, especially with George Clooney. I'm not a huge fan of all his comedic performances with them, but what he does with them lands so well here. The supporting cast is great. Charles Durning, John Goodman, just a really fun adventure story with a lot of comedy and the music is great too. So yeah, 3 really solid picks here. A good start. Let's go over to Jake for your 40 or 50 through 48.
At number 50, I have Pac-Man Returns. At number 49, I have Cloud Atlas. And at number 48, I have In the Mood for Love.
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Hold on a second.
Okay, so Batman Returns. So a couple years ago, I went and saw this at my local art house theater, and they have this event called like Drunken Cinema, where you go in and you give out a bunch of cards, and they say on them like every time Danny DeVito uses his penguin, uses a umbrella as a weapon, drink or whatever. And one of the cards had every time Batman appears on screen, drink. And like those people did not get drunk in this movie because there is very little Batman in this movie. It becomes abundantly clear once there's a game designed around it. The people who drank every time there was a cat pun, they got fucking wasted this night. So yeah, I love this movie. This is the only like cynical Burton movie, weirdly. This one's a movie about how trauma fractures these characters. It's the gothist interpretation of Batman. It's Burton's horniest movie. It's his grossest movie. It's just the most pure Burton. There's no normal counterbalance in the movie. It's all a bunch of fucking freaks just battle royaling, and I love it for that. So Cloud Atlas. Cloud Atlas is a movie like no other. Directed by the Wachowski sisters and Tom Tykwer. It's basically like 6 different movies intercut with each other, all about ranging from science fiction to historical fiction to light comedies, and they're all about people fighting oppressive systems with love. And the movie is extremely earnest, hard on its sleeve about that. And the last time I watched this movie with my wife, there's this whole Tom Hanks is giving this speech about about how we all share a soul, and how the human experience and one kind deed can ripple throughout history, and they're cross-cutting between all these different stories, and in a way that I've never seen a movie do anything like this. And tears are just streaming down my face, and my wife looks at me like I'm fucking insane. Okay, so and then In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love, the Wong Kar-wai. This is by intro to Wong Kar-wai. It's still my favorite Wong Kar-wai. This one is about two Hong Kong couples in the 1960s who share an adjacent apartment, and they both come to the realization that their spouses are cheating on them with each other's spouses. So this whole movie is about missed connections and imposing these restrictions on yourself and repressing your emotions. And the movie almost plays like 1984 or something, where the characters are so they're crushing themselves under their own emotions, and it's a rough one, but I love it. It's extremely romantic.
Okay. Batman Returns. Not great. Yeah, I feel like Batman 89, to me, I don't think that's necessarily, you can make an argument, I don't think it's necessarily the best Batman movie, but I think in that movie, Burton creates the best world that we've seen Batman exist in, like the world that Batman fits in the best. Batman Returns just falls off a cliff, and it just becomes like Beetlejuice. It just becomes any other Tim Burton movie. It's just too far ridiculous, and it's too much of him. He puts too much of himself into this point. I think 89 was a perfect amount of Burton. Batman Returns, way too much. I hear people praise Michelle Pfeiffer's performances. I hate Michelle Pfeiffer. This just so over the top and campy in a movie that just it just doesn't fit. She's so bad in this. Like, just trying so hard to be like that Batman 66 character, and it just doesn't land at all. Not a fan of this one. Danny DeVito's not. I don't like the movie's take on the Penguin. His performance is all right, but yeah, overall, Christopher Walken's good in it, but he's just being Walken. This is not the worst Batman movies, because there's much worse Batman movies exist, unfortunately, but this one's not at the top of the list by any measure. Cloud Atlas. I did not get to watch Cloud Atlas. That's probably for the better for you. I am very curious about this movie, morbidly curious about this movie and what it's about, what's going on. But I have a bad feeling I wouldn't enjoy it. I think it seems like it's long, and there's just a lot of weird stuff going on. Maybe I'd like it. I'll check it out sometime, but I didn't get to watch it for this list. In the Mood for Love, I did watch. I really enjoyed it. I think it's really solid. I like just the way it sets up that relationship, and I really like the fact that it's not. It's like you said, you find out, it's not a spoiler. You find out early on that these people, their spouses are cheating on each other, so they come together. And 99% of the movies, they come together, and right away it's like, okay, we're together now just because movie. But this movie does done it. This movie is a lot more challenging, a lot more difficult with that relationship, and I really like it. I want to give it a rewatch just because a movie like this, when it's in a non-English language, and I watch it, movie has a lot of subtlety, and just with like all the chronological time jumps, I think I need to rewatch it just to really wrap my head around it. But first watch, pretty solid movie.
It's intentionally confusing for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that's worth a rewatch. Okay, so that's everybody's bottom three. So we're gonna get in the middle of the list. Everybody's gonna get a chance to talk now. We're gonna start with Scott's number 47.
Okay, this was my hint today. I'm curious if anyone got it. It was a tough one. No? Okay. Well, it was the Wall Drug Dinosaur, because our main character works at Wall Drug in my favorite film of 2020, Nomadland. Yeah, this is a masterpiece. I think it only in a year like 2020, a weird year like that, could Nomadland have won Best Picture because it's just a very quiet, understated, plotless movie about these people. I'm wearing my Wall Drug shirt right now. I actually haven't been. My parents got it for me. But about this, it really opens up a window into this part of society that, we try to sort of sweep under the rug, that what we do to people when they get older, I think is, a huge theme in this movie. And also just like corporate influence in general, because like Fern has to leave her hometown basically because they just come through and shut everything down. The companies take over and shut down the local factories and everything. And so here she ends up in her van, without a way of supporting herself otherwise. But I think the movie is so, like, it doesn't have an agenda, which I really like. It just wants to show you these people's lives and how they live. And what you get from that is, yeah, this life is hard sometimes. You're constantly on the move. You never stay in one place. You're always in this van basically, and there's just, natural hardships that come with that. And the movie definitely doesn't gloss over that, despite what some people might say. But it also shows, hey, there are like joys to this life, right? The way that you get to explore this part of America, and it's just so beautifully shot. Like, just some of the scenes of like Frances McDormand just walking through the nomad camps and like with the sunset and everything, like, and there's nothing going on. She's just walking through, like saying hello to people, and just like the music by Ludovico Einaudi is in the background, and it's just like so beautiful. Like, I could just watch that for 15 minutes, just her walking around. And so it really, like, it makes you feel all different emotions. Like, there's these documentary like sequences with the actual nomads themselves where they have like these monologues about like their lives and really reckoning with death, that are just like stunning. Like, they're so, I mean, they are real. Like, these people are probably telling largely their own stories, and that really comes across. Frances McDormand as like, one of the fictional people in it is such a strong anchor at the heart of this. And it's just a beautiful, emotional movie that, again, just shines a light on a group of people that, we don't normally see represented. So I absolutely love Nomadland, and it was the deserved winner of Best Picture, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Nomadland. That was probably, if not my favorite from last year, definitely, at the very top of the list. This movie surprised me because I went in not knowing anything about it. I knew like very, very general plot details, basic synopsis, and I assumed it was going to be a very depressing movie of this woman dealing with hopelessness and just trying to carry on. And I was very pleasantly surprised. It's like basically about her like willing her best life into existence, despite the crap, the situation that's been, thrust upon her really like, creating this life that she wants out of that. And I think Frances McDormand was the perfect casting for this. She's a perfect actress to play this role. Definitely deserved that Oscar. I think that was a no-brainer. And yeah, like you said, like just it shows you just like those very like easy, simple, beautiful things in life. And I think that's a lot of what the movie has to do, is just finding those things, despite the hardships and the challenges. I love David Strahan in this movie. Is that his name? Strahan?
David Strathern, yeah.
Strathern, yeah. He I think that he was perfectly cast as that role too. Like just that kind of like silent, soft-spoken guy who's, but still has a lot of emotion, a lot to say, a lot to offer. Really good. I know a lot of people, there's controversy with that, but I like the casting of the actual people. And I think that gives it like a much more weight to it and much more realism, obviously. And that's what movies are all about, is like, these are people that I'm in a world and a culture that I'm never going to experience firsthand. But this movie does a great job of putting you in that. And like I said, Frances McDormand is the great vehicle to take you there. So yeah, I think it's a really solid pick. It's not my top 100 yet, but it is one over time that could definitely get there. Everybody else on Nomadland.
See, generally, when you watch a movie, you would prefer if something happens during it. And generally, when
Life
things happen,
sadly.
It's not shitting in a bucket. I really don't give a fuck about this movie. I was probably too kind to it when I first watched it, even. Because it's a film that, the second I finished it, just left my brain entirely. Because, again, nothing happens. Scott likes movies where nothing happens. We're going to fucking clash about this for the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Life.
I just truly don't understand what about this movie is appealing. Not that I'm mad at you for liking it. I just don't understand how it's supposed to work.
It seems like you're mad.
I'm tired.
I've never seen it, so go on ahead.
Yeah, I didn't see No Man's Land.
Oh, okay. All right, then that's easy. Scott, take us to your number 46.
All right. People will say this is too high. I don't care. This is one of my comfort movies. Happy Death Day. This is my second most watched movie on Letterboxd, I think. I've watched this like 7 times since I got my Letterboxd, including this past weekend. It's just pure fun. Like, I know, sure, it's a riff on Groundhog Day, whatever. I just like the setting of this movie. I think they do some, fun stuff with it. Even if it is like a riff on Groundhog Day, like I said, I think Jessica Roth is absolutely fantastic in this lead role as Tree. Again, watching her journey from just being this awful bitchy sorority girl at the start of the movie to like something approaching a good person like at the end of the movie is that, I mean, that's really what keeps me coming back to the movie. It's not like the plot or like the genius plotting or anything like that, because the movie doesn't have that. But watching her arc is just so satisfying, as like the more time she goes through the loop, she starts to like appreciate certain, she starts to see the good things in life, and realize that she's not been a very good person, and here are some small things she can do to improve that. And she's just super entertaining to watch. Like, great personality that jumps off the screen. I love all the little supporting characters. Like, each time I find something new to like in their performances, especially Rachel Matthews, who plays the evil sorority girl Danielle, like through the entire movie. Like, some of her lines are just absolutely hilarious. Like when she makes fun of the one girl for eating too much food or whatever, and the girl's like, "Oh, I skipped breakfast," and she's like, "What is breakfast, Becky?" It's just like there's just so many funny lines in the movie. I mean, it has its tongue in cheek, which Christopher Landon's movies have a great job in general, do a great job in general of just making horror fun. I mean, the movie's not that scary or anything, but it's still just, a ton of fun watching her learn the loop, like I said. And as in all these Groundhog Day like movies, when we get to the end and, she's finally figured everything out, that's like the most fun part of the movie, is watching her go through the loop, knowing everything that's about to happen. And like, she brings the pillow and lays it down as the guy falls. And it's just, it's so, fun to watch all that stuff fall into place. Some people will say it has one twist too many at the end. I don't really care. Like, again, I'm not here to watch some like incredibly coherent story or whatever. The movie's just pure fun, and for that purpose, it hits the bullseye and keeps me coming back for more all the time.
Yeah, this movie is a lot of fun. It is just, it's the Groundhog Day riff, but I really like what it does with the Groundhog Day tropes. And I like how it takes, whereas Groundhog Day is basically just about him and like his character. This has more of like a plot, and like it's like how it turns into like a whodunit. She's actually trying. She know, like with Groundhog Day, he doesn't really know why or what he's doing. He's just happening. And but with this one, like, it's like, okay, she has a goal in mind. I enjoy that aspect of it. Yeah, she's a great actress. She's a lot of fun. Just brings a lot of that really good, like that dark energy and that dark comedy to the role, which this needs, and it kind of just hangs on her performance. She does a really good job with it. So yeah, I think it's a solid pick. Fun horror comedy. Everybody else on Happy Death Day.
This is one of the another movies that I really do want to see. I just haven't gotten around to yet, but I've heard it's very good.
Yeah, I think this movie's a dang blast. I think that it actually has a lot to say about this girl waking up in this nightmare scenario over and over again, where she is in some stranger's bed. I think that's a really like clever choice, and the fact that being a woman in college, there's no shortage of suspects as to who wants to commit violence against her. I think the movie actually kind of has something to say about that. So on top of being a really fun movie, I think it's got something to say too.
This movie's good. I have no complaints about it. I watched it for the first time last year on Halloween. It didn't leave like a super strong impact, and I get why people like it. Neutral.
All right. Spence is neutral. Scott, what's your 45?
I will just add to Jake's point. I think they do a great job also with the love interest character with Carter, because there are so many ways that character could have gone wrong. But
Yes.
he's a good guy, but not in like the promising young woman good guy, right? Where it turns out there's something underneath, the veneer. He's a good guy. But anyway, okay, my number 45 is Ladybird.
There it is.
A Greta Gerwig movie? What? Yeah, I mean, this is a modern classic, I think, for a reason. It just understands, like, it is one of those movies, and Greta is good at doing this in general, but especially in this movie, of like makes the specific very universal. Like, I love all of the little moments in the movie, like just things that you don't even think about the first time you watch it, but then the more you watch it, you realize, oh, you just know these people so much better, because you have like the scene where they're opening the Christmas presents, right? And the mom has gotten the dad like the golf pillow or whatever with the dad joke on it, and she just like laughs a little bit too hard about it, and it's just like you've lived through that moment, like you've been there in that exact moment before, probably, like with your own family. Or when she's like, oh, why'd you use 2 towels? Right now, I'm going to have to do like an extra load of laundry. It's just like those little moments that like she just gets it all so right, like from the big themes of the movie down to like how these people actually live. The whole family dynamic is fantastic. I mean, obviously, Laurie Metcalf, like, she deserved the Oscar. Let's just say it, right here and now. As much as I did, talk about I, Tonya, but like Allison Janney did not deserve the Oscar over Laurie Metcalf. No way. Tracy Letts is also fantastic as the dad. One of my absolute favorite scenes is when he runs into his son at the job interview, and like just the way he adjusts his tie, and just like, go get him, son. That just like, makes me tear up a little bit. It's a great moment. And yeah, I mean, I love watching her Lady Bird's arc. I mean, obviously, Saoirse Ronan is fantastic. It goes without saying. But I relate to it because I'm also somebody who like left home for college, but also like really cares about the place that I came from, and that's kind of what Lady Bird comes to realize over the course of the movie. Even though she's like, oh, I hate Sacramento, I want to get out of Sacramento. The second she gets out of Sacramento, it's like all of a sudden she realizes like she misses her family. She like goes to the church at the end, right? When she was so like derisive about, her Catholic school upbringing and everything. She realizes how much all of this stuff meant to her and made her the person that she is. And that's something that I really resonate. Just that whole idea of when she writes the essay about Sacramento, and the nun is like, oh, you obviously love Sacramento the way you write about it. And she's like, well, I was just describing it. Like, I love that. I love that sentiment. Like, that you can just tell how somebody feels about a place just because they write it subconsciously in a certain way. Beautiful movie, one of the most perceptive coming of age movies ever. And I'm sure this one is going to age really well. Like, I think this is just going to keep getting better with time.
Yeah, it's no secret how much I love this movie. This is fantastic. I mean, sure, I'll start with her. I say this all the time every time I get a chance to talk about her. 20 years from now, we're going to be talking about her as one of the best of all time. She's amazing, and she's amazing in this. The whole cast is great. And this movie gets so much right where so many coming-of-age movie gets it wrong, where every character is a cliche and every character is just an obvious movie character. Everybody, this is so real and so relatable. Like, I relate with the high school girl and how she feels, just that desire for freedom, but not knowing what to do with it or what you're going to do with it, but just wanting it, just wanting something else and wanting to get out of that, like, that confines that she's stuck in. Laurie Metcalf is the mom who just wants to do better than what she had, but can't help but just continuously screwing it up. And you feel so bad for her, like when they're shopping for the dresses and she's like, just criticizing her, not meaning to, but just it comes out. That's how she was raised and that's what she heard. You discover so much about these characters and just the little things, like you were saying, Scott, little things they do. The dad, who's like, life is just a complete mess. It just sucks, but he just keeps chugging on for his family because he has to. You see how much he loves his family and how much he loves his daughter and cares about her, and the relationship they have is great. I love they're talking about the Alanis Morissette song. She's like, she wrote this in a weekend. He's like, I believe it. Just little things like that. There, so many great characters. Like you said, this movie is going to be an all-time classic. 10, 20, 30 years from now, people are going to be looking back at this and just saying the same things we are now. Because of how solid this is. I wish more coming-of-age movies were like this. I wish more movies had Saoirse Ronan in them. I wish a lot more things were like this. If more movies were like Ladybird, the world would be a better place. The rest of you did not have this on your
More
list.
to come.
I demand answers.
I'm actually sorry. This should be on my list, probably. My favorite thing about Ladybird, because I think she's like such a great character. It's like a new character type. Like that's what's so great about it. I like how she like takes a joke a little too far always. That's my favorite thing. Like when she like doesn't mean it, but she like calls the nun the C word, and like the nun hears it. And she doesn't mean it, or even when she like has a point, like when the lady is giving like the anti-choice lady is up there.
Abortion,
Yeah, she's like, oh, we wouldn't be in this meeting, I guess. Like, or we wouldn't have to be to this assembly. Yeah, I find her hilarious, and I really love this movie.
Yeah, she's a real high school kid, which is what you don't get in these movies 90% of the time. She feels like a real high school kid.
This is a really good movie. I didn't like the first time I watched it. I watched it earlier last year. I liked it a lot. It's not really going to stick my top 100, not because it's like bad. It's just there's a lot more coming of age films that I think connect with me more personally, and like I will never like disrespect someone for having this on their list. It's the lesser of the two Gerwig run adaptations or collaborations, but like still good pick.
Yeah.
Scott,
Scott,
we're 3 for 3. 3 for 3. Let's see if we can go 4 for 4. I haven't seen this film.
Come on, Ray.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, number 44.
All right, we talked about a movie that is destined to become an all-time classic. Here's a movie that already is an all-time classic. Amadeus.
Ooh, rock me, Amadeus.
Nobody had it? Okay. Yeah, like this. So this is the last movie where two people were nominated for for best actor from the same movie, and like, yeah, like it's never been better than this. Like these two guys, like the battle of wills between them is just like it's such an interesting way to tell a biopic, right? Like from the perspective of this character who, was obsessed with Mozart, right? Like, I mean, it is a biopic about Mozart, but it's also a lot about Salieri, obviously. And, just watching the way, I mean, in F. Murray Abraham's performance, the way that like he is disgusted like by Mozart, but also like just the music, like he cares about music so much that he's just like when he's reading the sheet music, when he goes to talk to Mozart's wife and he like sees all the sheet music and he's like reading it, like, and he's like, he wrote this in a day, like, and he's like mad, but at the same time he's like, this is like the most beautiful music I've ever seen, like I can't deny it. And I love that like conflict that's going on between him throughout the entire movie, that like, he loves that this music is in the world, but he hates that this, immature person is the one who created it. Like the musical scenes, some of them are just like absolutely transcendent. Like when Don Giovanni gets performed for the first time, just like honestly all of the scenes where the symphonies are being performed are just like spine tingling, chill inducing. Yeah, I mean it's Amadeus. Like I don't guess I don't really have a ton more to say except it's just such an entertaining movie. Like there is no reason that a movie like that is 2 hours and 50 minutes long, that's like a biopic about a classical musician or whatever, should be like just so conventionally entertaining and hold up like that to this day. But I think again, just the way that they choose to tell the story through Salieri's eyes makes it like almost a thriller in a way, because it's like what something obviously is going to happen here, like this obsession, it can't go on forever, like this war can't go on forever, it's obviously going to end with somebody or both of them in ruin. And so just watching that tension build is part of the joy of the movie. But it's just one of those like movie moments that, or movies that you just let wash over you. It's just kind of like overwhelming in its greatness in some moments. So yeah, it's Amadeus. I can't believe nobody else had it.
Neither can I. Yeah, this movie is great. This is one of my all-time favorite movie relationships. Just the relationship between these two, and like you said, just the different perspectives they have of each other, just how differently they see the world. Like Mozart thinks that Salieri is his friend, if he thinks of him at all. Like he barely knows he's alive, but when he does recognize him, he sees him as like a very dear friend. And Salieri is just obsessed with him, and it's just that hatred he has for him. And it's just so tragic that you see like Mozart has this gift, like this once in a millennia gift, and he just doesn't care. Like it's not even important. It's just something it's just there. And Salieri would just treasure this so much and cultivate it, and it would and would just do so much with it. And he wants it so bad, he doesn't have it. And I just love that dynamic. It's so good. I love that so much. And I think that's a huge influence on Hamilton. When you watch Hamilton, I think Hamilton is structured very much like this movie is. The relationship between Hamilton and Burr, how it's through Burr's point of view. I think that movie Hamilton owes so much to this story. But yeah, those two are so great. The music is fantastic. The way they use the music and the way they use the different operas and things to express what's going on in Mozart's life. And yeah, this movie is so amazing. Again, I need answers. Why don't you guys have this? It's ridiculous.
4 for 4.
Okay, what?
4 for 4 here. That's why.
It was coming.
Yeah, when I was in the 8th grade, my mean music teacher, Mr. Crawford, showed this to us. Like he would like throw shit around the room and scream shit at me, and I played the trombone because it looked fun. I didn't learn a fucking note in that class, and he hated me. And I had to he liked this movie too much, so that's part of the reason. Like he liked this, and it was like I could hear him like going, like watching it, like he just fucking loved this thing. And it's a great movie. I have to give it up, Mr. Crawford. I guess you have good taste in movies, but if you're out there, fuck you.
So here's where I stand on this. Is this one of like the best movies ever made? 100%. I'd put it in probably top 30, maybe top 20. I don't want to make my list off of one of the best movies ever because I don't want to watch the great movies. I want to watch just like a fun movie sometimes. So like, full respect to this, it wouldn't make my fuck you, Kirk. It wouldn't make my
that's
list.
why I have Happy Death Day and then this,
Right.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
All right. So okay, Spence, give us your fun movies. What's your number 47?
My 47 is the only Star Wars film on my list. It is The Force Awakens. For me, the best way to describe this. I know a lot of people, when they saw Star Wars, the original, they felt like their world had changed. Like, holy shit, cinema has been reinvented. And I didn't quite feel that extreme, but I have to imagine like that's what this movie felt like to me. Like this being my New Hope, the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, and like a reintroduction-esque, but not really, into the franchise, just like sort of blew me away and touched me really personally. The fact that I was finally able to like relive one of my favorite franchises on the big screen, and I never really lost that touch. And even on like the multiple rewatches I've had of this, like it still works really well. I love the new characters they've added. I think J.J. Abrams like builds his universe in such an interesting way, and even just like this, the simplest thing of just like watching Rey be a scavenger, not just being told it, and seeing what she does and the world she lives in. It's fucking amazing. I love everything about this movie, and I truly don't understand how people can not like this. And they're like, "Oh, it's too repetitive of the original." I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck because it created an entertaining, amazing film with amazing characters. And if you're gonna complain that your fucking 40-year-old movie is somehow like the same, go fuck yourself. I don't care.
So I also had this.
Yeah.
Spence, let's treasure this moment. We're 100% on the same page here. I agree with everything you said too. Like that's the reason why it is my favorite as well, because this is my Star Wars movie, right? Like, of course I love the original Star Wars. Like, who doesn't? But I didn't live through like when that came out, right? And so I saw the prequels in theater, but I was a kid, I didn't understand them. By the time this came out, I'd come to realize, hey, they're not that good. So I just like had such nervousness going into the movie because it was like, oh, are they gonna, mess it up again? Are we about to go down this route again with Star Wars? We would eventually, but anyway, but I'll just like never forget watching this movie. And I think what J.J. Abrams does so well in this movie is balancing the nostalgia and moving things forward, right? Like there's the perfect amount of bringing, you bring Han Solo back, right? It's awesome. You bring Leia back, but also you get all of the new characters, right? We're going to move the franchise forward in that way. We're going to move the franchise forward because we're going to kill Han Solo, right? We're going to kill the most beloved character in Star Wars,
Spoiler.
arguably. Yeah, sorry. In the movie, so there's that desire to move things forward, and again, I'll just never forget, and obviously it kept moving forward for a while, and then things happened, but I'll never forget getting to the end of the movie, and like you have like Leia being like, "May the Force be with you," to Rey, she gets on the Falcon, she flies off, and seeing Luke there at the edge of the cliff, and then the movie ends, and just sitting there like, wow, they did it. Like he really did it. Like he made Star Wars awesome again. And yeah, sure, it's a rehash of New Hope, but again, I didn't get to have that experience with New Hope like I did with this movie, so that's why it's my favorite, and that's why it's on my list.
I love this movie. When it first came out, I saw it 4 times in the theaters, and I haven't done that since I was like in junior high. I got so much out of this movie. It was such a really solid Star Wars movie. It carries that kind of just like you said, Scott. It does new things, but still carried had that Star Wars feel to it. On rewatches, is it perfect? No. The whole idea of a bigger Death Star kind of, in my mind, kind of hurts it. It's kind of a downer. Like that's just going backwards too much. But I think what it comes down to is the character of Rey is such a great character. I remember first time I watched this movie when she goes outside that AT-AT and she puts on that helmet and just sits there and eats. I'm like, I love this person. I'm going to follow this person. Whatever happens, wherever they go to do, like I am completely on board. Like Daisy Ridley is so good in that role. Such a great character. Such a great new version of that hero for that hero's journey that these movies are. The use of the score was mostly new, but the old beats, like when she grabs that lightsaber. And
Rey's theme is incredible.
Yeah, and they play that, and you're like, oh yes, I'm on board. Just like the scene with her vision, that was so good because Rey was definitely 100% being set up to be someone special. Rey was someone special. Why would you say she's not unless you want to troll the people who enjoyed this movie? But it's just facts, Spence. I mean, you cannot
she
deny
is special, but not because of her upbringing.
Kirk,
it's just facts, Spence. I mean, it's gravity. It is what
facts don't care about your opinions, Kirk.
It's I'm not talking my opinion. I'm talking facts. Rey was being set up to be a special character. She was special. She was not a nobody. But I digress. We're not talking about the worst movies that came later. We're coming to talk about the good one. This is this is great. It was a great start to this franchise. I think, I'm not a fan of where it went, obviously, but I think it set up a lot of great stuff. Everybody else from The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Why does she need to have like a bloodline to be special? That's what I don't understand. Like, can't it just
because
be that
it's Star Wars.
I don't know, the Force
the
is strong with
Skywalker
her,
saga.
like it was with Luke Skywalker?
Yeah, so she has a high midichlorians count, so she's special. She's somebody special.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this isn't like my favorite of the new one. I like The Last Jedi the most of the 3 new ones, but yeah, I really like Force Awakens, especially the first third of Force Awakens is amazing. It's amazing. Like it's like some of the best Star Wars, like all that Jakku stuff. Like, and I think that the second 2/3 kind of sags a little bit. I think it's been beaten to death, the Death Star thing. Like people pick on that a lot, but for a good reason. But yeah, still this movie kind of fucking rules, and people are a little too hard on it for how solid it was.
I'm with the rest of y'all. This movie is amazing. It's really great. It is that feeling of okay, this is what A New Hope was to everybody else. I personally love the new trio. Ray is absolutely awesome. I still think John Boyega needs to. I hope somebody gives him the good Eddie Murphy route, because if you've seen him in Uprising, in Pacific Uprising, he's fucking hilarious, and he can do a range of a lot of things. And you start to see that in Force Awakens. And I love the bromance between Finn and Poe. That bromance is just something like, oh, I want to be a part of that. It is a rehash of a lot of things, but when you do it well, who really cares? If it's done that well, BB-8 is a great R2-D2 stand-in. Just all these things that come in, you make them somewhat new but reminiscent of the past. Again, except that Death Star, I'm sick of them damn things. But it's such a great film, and it's a good balance. It's a great balance of what everybody loved about the series, but pushing it forward to something new. So this movie kicks a lot of ass.
All right. Everybody talked already? Okay, so Spence, your number 46.
My 46, Tis of the Season, another great horror comedy, What We Do in the Shadows. I fucking love this film. You couldn't tell I like horror movies, but I especially love horror comedies. I like the idea of taking like these classic ideas and saying, hey, they're sort of funny, aren't they? And like, I love how Taika Waititi was able to like stay pretty traditional to like what vampires were and how they were created, and bring them to the modern world, and how just like the not the irony, but just like the inherent silliness of it all. And actually, this was my reference in the chat, because I love the beast in the story. How you like the entire time you're building up like this ethereal bigger villain of, oh my god, what could it be to take down these vampires? And it's just like a really shitty ex-girlfriend who isn't even that bad. He's just a shitty dude who just like broke up with her, like, oh, it's a woman, I can't be with her anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Great. This movie is so fucking funny. And the fact that we are today still quoting a really shitty pun of "we're werewolves, not swearwolves" shows us staying power of that fucking screenplay. Amazing movie.
Yeah, this is another really good, solid horror comedy pick. I love that. I'll call it New Zealand brand of humor, but these might be the only like 5 people who do this humor in New Zealand. I don't know, but everybody I've seen from New Zealand does it. So, but that Taika Waititi Flight of the Conchords style of humor is just fantastic, and it fits so well into this story. I love how they take like all the different like versions of vampires from like Nosferatu up to Twilight, and how they're each a character, and they kind of play with that version of the mythos. And I think each actor and each character is so strong. And it's just hilarious that dry deadpan humor, and just the fact making it a mockumentary, I think, was the best way to go, because just there's the sit down, the talking head interviews and them explaining what they're doing. It's so much fun, and it's so funny. And yeah, the werewolves coming at the end, and the swearwolves and everything. Just really solid, from Taika and from that group. I love it so much. I'd watch these guys do pretty much anything, but this is a really fun one. Everybody else on What We Do in the Shadows.
So I've only seen the movie once, and this movie is fucking hilarious. I need to start watching the TV show soon, because I've heard it's brilliant. But it's great. This is a great pick. I love this film.
Yeah, I watched this a few days ago again. I love Flight of the Conchords. I think Rhys Darby is one of the funniest people in the world. I love the scene where Taika Waititi is feeding on someone for the first time, and he just feels fucking awful. And she's talking about all of her future plans, and you see on his face, his eyes are just like he doesn't want to do this anymore. And I just find that the slapstick of like the blood shooting out is just a really funny movie.
I still have not seen it, to be honest. I am a little out on Taika Waititi after his last film. It was very overhyped, in my opinion. And also, he's in Free Guy. Apparently, that's a thing now. He just is in movies. But yeah, I don't know. He was very annoying in the trailer. That movie looked very annoying. But I can't say I haven't seen it
He's
yet.
the worst part of that movie. The rest of it is actually surprisingly pretty great.
But anyway, I'm sure that this is probably pretty fun. I hear great things about it, but I don't know. Just like I'm not itching to watch one of his movies right now.
All right. When you say his last movie, you referring to Jojo Rabbit?
Jojo Rabbit, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's a take. I think maybe there's something I missed in between there. All right, Spence, number 45.
You're that Kirk would actually disagree with Scott. My 45 is The Truman Show. I have a weird connection with this movie because ever since I was like 6 until I saw this, I thought this was what was happening to me. I had such paranoia of everyone around me that when I finally saw it on film, like, holy shit, this is how I've been feeling for the past however many years. And the fact that even through all of that fear, I can still like be warmed into this movie speaks to how incredible it is. It's possibly Jim Carrey's best performance, and I think the actual I'm forgetting the name of the actual city in this, but like how the city was built. And I think there's there's a little bit of genius to it. How even in the incredulousness of creating this world, I still think it somehow makes sense, even in the implausibility. Laura Linney is great. I forget who it is, but who plays his best friend is also great. It's a really smart movie that I think earns its iconic ending. That I think if you sort of throw it out there without building up to it, you're like, oh, that's supposed to work. And then it's beautiful. Just watching him take his final bow before leaving the simulation is just, I love this film to pieces. It's amazing.
This is one of those movies, I saw it when it came out and I watched it. I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then as I like got more into film and film communities, I heard people talk about, like, really, that movie? So I went back and watched it, and it's good. I don't have anything particularly bad to say about it. I will say I was reading up on it and reading about the development and all the different script iterations and all the different directors that were attached. And I kind of feel like all those ideas, we ended up with like the least interesting possible version of this. I mean, there was like Tim Burton was attached, Terrence Malick, all these people were attached to this. And to be honest, as far as the movie we got, I feel like there's a lot of cool ideas, but to me, Truman himself is the least interesting part of the story. Like, I want to know so much more about, like, I want to know Laura's Linney care. I want to know how she got in. Like, they kind of breeze over her at the beginning. They give you that, like, one talking head moment, and then she's gone, and then she's just in the thing. And like, no, I want to know more. Like, how does her life work? I want to know, like, what the life is like for the actors, what's like outside, how they come in, what they do. Like, that's the story I want from this. Like, I wish it, like, and again, you know, reading about the script, a lot of like darker iterations that went into that stuff, and that to me is more interesting. This is fine, but to me, it's like, okay, they introduce him, and then he wants to leave, and he leaves, and that's the story. Again, not terrible. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. I think Jim Carrey is pretty good, and I think we're starting to see here, like, this is like the beginning of his like dramatic turn. But it's still not. It doesn't grab me like I feel like it could have in, you know, a different universe, a different version of it. But it's all right. Everybody else on Truman Show.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page as you, Kirk, actually. I think this is a really good movie, but there is so many more interesting areas to pry into and actually investigate solipsism instead of just kind of depicting it. Where something like Anomalisa, I feel, is kind of getting at a similar idea where this person, everyone around them isn't real in some way. And I feel like that movie is a deeper investigation into that idea. And I kind of wish The Truman Show just went a little deeper. It almost feels like it could have been like a Black Mirror episode in like an hour, you know? Also, I just want to add, imagine like watching The Truman Show and like being like, oh yeah, I'll start watching this show. Like, what did I miss? It's like, you missed a lot. Like, he was like born and like, he had a girlfriend and it's a whole thing. Like, catching up on the Truman Show. Like,
Yeah, it'd be rough.
I saw this a long time ago on TV. Barely remember it. It's definitely due for a rewatch. I'm not the biggest Jim Carrey fan. That's probably why I haven't rewatched it. But I would probably like it. I think Peter Weir is a great director. I don't know exactly how he meshes with the material, to Kirk's point, but I do like quite a few of his movies. So yeah, it's worth a second shot for me.
I'm in the same boat. I saw it a long time ago when it was out, and it was cool when I watched it. And I was just like, sure, it's all right, pretty good. Jim Carrey's doing drama. Sure. That's where I was at. I'm still at.
This is the only panel where you could be met with shrugs from the fucking Truman Show.
It's true. Like, that is weird.
No Jacoby Bancroft. I'm sorry. Spence, what's your 44?
So week 1 of this show, a nice man by the name of Did You Say Cauliflower commented at 9 p.m. I can't show you this. I have the screenshot pulled up right here. At 9 p.m. said, the amount of times people have said Pitch Perfect, yet not had the movie Pitch Perfect. Pain. Scott ruined the joke, but you know what? Here it is. Pitch Perfect number 44. Oh, amazing fucking movie. One of the most rewatchable movies, really. Because if you think about it, like, I love musicals, right? What if you take, like, the performance of musicals, pair it with a coming-of-age film, and also great early 2010s comedy from the people like Adam Devine and Rebel Wilson, said with irony, because I know it's hard to read just like on the show, but like, it's fucking funny. It is so fucking funny. I love everyone in this. Anna Kendrick is like low-key really good. She could come off as just like this snooty, like, oh, I'm better than you hipster girl, and she's fucking sells it in a really good way. All those numbers are great. And beyond that, it gives us one of the best scenes of the decade in the riff off. So good to try to recreate it in the last 2 films. Second one is fun enough. Third one sucks, but it's fucking amazing in the first one. This movie works so well on every rewatch. I have truly never gotten tired of it in the nearly 10 years that I've been watching it. Amazing film. Y'all should have it on your list.
I had Pitch Perfect at 69, and you have said no lies, none whatsoever. The riff-off is absolutely amazing. When she went into No Diggity, I wanted to stand up and clap. Anna Kendrick is very dope. I love her rendition of Cups. I love Cups, absolutely. And I think whether or not you like the movie or not, you cannot deny how in this form it's underrated. There are movies that come out that become a movement. Like, they're so popular but also have like really everything so good about it that the kind of landscape of movies or popular culture changes. The fact that after Pitch Perfect, acapella, music, all of that, nobody really was talking about like acapella singing and getting into singing like that until Pitch Perfect came out. There was a damn reality show after it, basically because of this movie. Like, was a movement of how like music films were coming out after this, more in the popular range, but it was a shift in what was popular in movies and what happened after that. And you really need to think about how much that is a true statement. This movie is hilarious. Anna Kendrick is a great leading woman in this. Rebel Wilson does her least amount of annoyingness, and it fits and it's only because of how this movie has so many wacky characters that she may be a little annoying, but she accepted a little bit more because of the wackiness of everybody else. And I absolutely love when Donald Faison and Joe Latrulio and the older acapella group come in and they just start fighting. Like, this movie is brilliant. Look. I love this movie so much. When I got married the first time, my tables were all of my favorite movies in my life. Pitch Perfect was one of them. I love this movie.
Hell yeah. Hell fucking yeah.
That's awesome. I don't come to your wedding. But did anybody else have this? No? Okay.
God.
All right. First of all, Rue, pump the brakes. Calm down there, man. Glee would like to have a word with you.
Think about it.
Glee would like to have a word with you. I think that's a little more.
Are we talking Glee now? Are we talking Glee
No,
now?
I don't want to talk about Glee. I don't want to talk about this movie.
What is better?
But
What is
if we're
better?
talking about chronologically what had influence, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it was there. Second of all, sidebar. Let's talk about the riff-off. This movie specifically talks about how much they have to practice for these shows. And hey, you got to be in practice on time. We got to practice all these hours. But hey, we're going to get together at a random time and spontaneously improv perfect 5-part harmonies for all these songs. That scene drives me crazy because it so doesn't fit with the rest of the movie.
Have you never seen a cipher?
It's called talent.
Hey, you guys are done. You guys are done. I'm talking now. That scene makes no sense.
Feel resistance.
Third of all, this movie is okay. Like, it's watchable. I went and saw this with Kathy. She went us to this. I'm like, oh no, this is going to be awful. And it was all right. I didn't hate it. The second one is complete trash. The third one I stayed a million miles away from. This one is okay. Top 100, you guys are out of your mind, but it's an okay movie. It's enjoyable. I could sit down and watch it and not be miserable. So that's the best one to give you. Scott and Jake, you did not have this. That's okay, but tell us why.
Thank you.
Ryan Murphy deserves jail for a lot of reasons, but one of them is by making Glee, which probably allowed this movie to get made. I don't like a cappella music. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't. And so I'm at a barrier to entry here with this. I also don't think it's that funny. I think this is Rebel Wilson at her most annoying, if we're being honest. Like, Rebel Wilson has been working to like overcome how annoying she started off for me in this for her entire career to this point. Actually, I think she's all right in Jojo Rabbit, which I mentioned earlier. But yeah, I just don't. It seems like a movie that actually I might kind of like, but no, I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, those movies like
the only part I will say, which I do find funny, is John Michael Higgins and Elizabeth Banks as the announcers. That's the only part where I get any chuckles.
This is like the definition of a movie that your like high school girlfriend drags you to, and you leave, and you're like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad," you know? Like, I'm not offended. Like, sure, but like, I kind of like Pitch Perfect 2 a little bit more because it's much funnier than the first one. And I actually hated the cup thing so much and the trend that I only drink out of water bottles now.
All right, Spence, that was your 44. So go back to Amaru and your number 47.
Ciphers and rap battles exist.
Not 5-part harmony.
47. It's 1994's The Lion King. All right. The Lion King is by far one of the greatest kids animated movies of all time. I mean, it's been talked about to death. First time in my lifetime dealing with death in an animated film, and the way to move on from that. Great musical numbers, amazing voice actors. Jason Weaver does not get enough credit on how well that man can sing. Everybody remembers Jonathan Taylor Thomas as the voice, but Jason Weaver was the singing voice. It's Lion King. It's the Lion King. Timon and Pumbaa are absolutely amazing. Jeremy Irons, the Scar is a perfect voice. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's fun at times. It's emotional at times. It's a great kids animated film to get you to learn about growing up and dealing with tragedy. But it also is just the regular animated tropes. And James Earl Jones is one of the greatest voice actors of all time. I mean, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's great.
Anybody else have Lion King? All right. Yeah, this is a really solid movie, a really good animated film. I was a little older when it came out, so I don't have that like childhood connection. I was never really deeply impacted by Mufasa's death, so I don't have that going for me. But it's still really good. I don't love it like everybody else does. Every time I watch them, it's like short. It's like 80, 85 minutes. I'm like, I went through. I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. And it's over. And again, this is the one. I'm definitely not going to like criticize you for having on your list because it's a solid movie. And if you love it, I understand you love it, but it's just not. It's not my favorite of the Renaissance, and it's not my favorite Disney animated movie. But it's good. Also, it's not Hamlet. Scott and Spence and Jake on Lion King.
Yeah, I feel like it bears explaining because like I haven't had like any Disney movies on my list that I didn't really watch Disney movies as a kid. It just they were never shown to me. Instead, I watched weird sporting events. Like that was my childhood was watching baseball and Jeopardy. And 20 years later, I'm still here doing it. So, but because of that, I came to a lot of these movies later in life, and kind of like Kirk. I appreciate The Lion King. Of course, I do think it's one of the best Disney animated movies that I've seen. I like, setting a Shakespearean tale in this particular setting, but it's just always going to be like a kid's movie to me. And for that reason, I just not going to be one of my favorites. So if I watch it, I really like it. I certainly don't mind sitting down and watching it. But I don't know. It's just it doesn't have that special connection to me because I didn't get into it until I was older. But Lord knows it's a billion times better than the remake.
God forbid someone really loves a kids film, Scott. And it's like this is an amazing film. Like no qualms here. Again, like best films of all time might go on there. It's the Disney film that I think I'm very reactionary when it comes to my opinions between them trying to work on separating. But being told that this is like the greatest film of all time or like best Disney film ever, and then watch it and you're like, oh, it's really good. But when it didn't meet those expectations, it's sort of hard to like still love it as much as I probably should. Great film, fantastic. It wouldn't have snipped my top. It wouldn't have snipped my top 100.
Yeah, I love this movie too. I love Elton John. Like recently, this 2020 the quarantine pandemic 2020 year was the year of Elton John for me, where I just went into a deep dive on him, and I'm kind of obsessed. And Rocket Man hit at the right time, or I watched it I guess later, but yeah, this is some of the best songs. I mean, yeah, great movie. It's weird though because if it was to come out today and they were to be like, we're making a movie about like Africa, and they were like, oh, who do you have doing the songs? It'd be like Elton John. You'd be like, really? Like that was your first choice, Elton John? Like
we're gonna have Young Gravy make the soundtrack for the sequel.
All right, I'm moving on to your number 46.
So twice this week, I have two movies back to back that are very similar and pretty much interchangeable. It's really hard for me to pick. This one is a little bit more straightforward, where like my 46 is definitely above my 47, because they kind of go inside together with me. But we're right back to the Disney Renaissance. It's Aladdin.
Yikes for later episode.
All right. We'll go on to my 45 then. And I will repeat myself. Chris Tucker had one of the greatest runs of the 90s, and one of the funniest films of all time is Friday.
Nice.
Friday is absolutely 100% the comedy of comedies. One-liners, storylines you think are hilarious, characters that are absolutely amazing. RIP to AJ Johnson, Ezel, my neck, my back, my neck and my back. Smokey's over here taking a shit. Just everything about this film is pure comedy. John Witherspoon is Pops. In the middle of all that, being able to go, you win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day, and you feel that. Freaking FANZONE Love, you're playing with my emotions. It is nothing but it's a day in the life movie. So what it is you get a day in the life of the funniest people you will ever meet in your life. The amount of just pop culture that this movie has given to the world, the fact that people didn't know that Bye Felicia was from this movie just makes a lot of us in the Black community like Come on, know where you're getting this from. It is just nothing but jokes from front to back. When Bernie Mac comes in and him and Chris Tucker have that back and forth, it is just beautiful and hilarious. And when we talk about hood classics, this is a classic film. And if it isn't there yet, I need Criterion Collection to go ahead and do their job.
All right. We've already established I have very different opinions on Chris Tucker and how much Chris Tucker is too much Chris Tucker. For me, this was definitely too much Chris Tucker. And this style of comedy isn't my thing. And I know there's spoilers, but we're going to talk about some movies down the road that kind of fit this mold that just aren't my style. It has moments. I mean, the moments are hit or miss for me personally. It has some moments that are funnier than others. And I think for me, it is that hype, the fact that it's been hyped up so much that this is so funny. You got to watch this. You got to watch that. By the time I did, because I came to this later, by the time I did get around to watch, I'm like, some of it's all right. Some of it's hit or miss. It's definitely not one of my favorites. But again, like I said, this style overall, that day in the life, just sitting around kind of hangout movie isn't my thing. But everybody else on Friday.
Have not seen it.
Oh,
Friday is a fun movie. I don't like. It's not laugh out loud to me. Some of the like scatological humor and stuff is just like not my brand of humor. But I do like all the relationships between the characters. And yeah, I like that it's a day in the life movie. Obviously, a lot of my favorite movies are like that. So I like just the plotless hangout nature of the movie. That's what I really like. Ice Cube, I actually think is really underrated as a comedic actor. Supporting roles and stuff that he's popped up in over the past decade or so, like the Jump Street movies, for example. I think he's one of the absolute funniest parts of those movies. So I enjoy him. I'm not on Rue's side with Chris Tucker, but I'm not on Kirk's side either. Like he has his good movies, he has his bad movies. For me, he's comes out on the good side in this one. It's not a classic for me, but it's a fun enough movie. I don't mind watching it.
How you gonna get fired on your day off, Craig? On your day off?
And Tiny Lister is great also.
I really love this movie. I want to quote Lisa Schwartzbaum. She had a great review of this, but to quote her, she said, "Friday has the energy and sass and the nerve to suggest that the line between tragedy and comedy may be in the bloodshot eye of the beholder." And I think that's exactly what this movie's doing. It's not such a different movie than a tragedy. It's just that it happens to star this hilarious guy, and the way that he handles it is it's just hilarious. And yeah, I really love this movie.
Before finishing off, it is the unfortunate reality of a lot of Black communities that comedy is the way we deal with tragedy. And if you want to look at it that way, Friday is one of the essential movies to show that off. So,
yes.
All right, Rue, hit us with your 44.
I'll say it again later, but this is the second time where back-to-back movies are going to be just interchangeable. And this one is pretty interchangeable with my 43, but we'll see that later. But 44 is this one right here. Black Panther. I'll just start with the cultural impact. This is one of the most cultural significant movies of all time. Plain and simple. Comic book movies were the most popular thing on earth. And for years and years and years and years and years and years upon the history of all history, Black people don't sell overseas. Minorities don't sell overseas. Minorities are going to do this. And then Black Panther just came in and stepped on everybody's necks because it was authentic, because it was real to the community. The fact that, Ruthie Carter went and looked at all the different diaspora of countries and all of their different sets and clothing and put it all together to make something new while still being able to connect to different cultures. My wife, like, specifically is like, that is from Ethiopia. They're not in Ethiopia, but that necklace she wears is from Ethiopia. It's just little things like that, the little details that Ryan Coogler was able to pay attention to and the entire team was able to pay attention to that make this film resonate so hard. Kendrick Lamar, even though, yes, he is in every single song on that soundtrack is amazing. I didn't think Ludwig should have won Best Score, but he won Best Score for a reason. At the same time, that score is iconic. The second you hear like the Dora Milaje's theme coming in different parts, you know where it's from. And then from there, the movie itself is one of the better MCU films. Not the best, and y'all know me, not even top 5 to me. Close, so y'all know what's coming later. It's close-ish, but the acting is amazing. The action is pretty damn good. Every single character in this film makes an impact. Killmonger is arguably one of the best villains, and the fact that they killed him off is still so annoying. But to have a finishing line, bury me in the oceans with my ancestors because they knew death was better than bondage, it's just so impactful. And now the elephant in the room, which is the third act, which is MCU doing its MCU shit sometimes. That third act CGI Black Panther versus another version of the Black Panther is not great. However, the conversation between the two of them as the fight is happening does elevate it more. And I enjoy the rhinos. So everything outside of the Black Panther and Killmonger fight in that third act, I actually really enjoy because you get to have the Dora Milaje show off. You get the Jabari coming back. Winston Duke is fucking hilarious in this film. Hilarious and powerful and serious all at the same time. But again, back to that third act. Yes, the rhinos are a bit much, but the badass moment where Okoye stops the rhino in his tracks, leading to the "Would you kill me, my love?" and points the spear at him without question. Like, little things in that third act allow it to not be the worst third act in a great MCU film. Which again, later I'll touch on a bit, with my 43. So Black Panther's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, speaking of the cultural impact, that's unquestionable. That was, huge for what it was. And everything you said, Rue, is absolutely right. And watch it the first time, I felt that. But on successive rewatches, watching the movie, in and of itself, as just a Marvel movie, for me, it's middle of the road. I think there's some really solid stuff in there. Like you said, that third act's rough. That those CGI rhinos are hard to look at. It's the same versus same fight. I'm going to get into blasphemous territory here. I think Killmonger is an interesting villain. I don't think Michael B. Jordan does that much with him that's not on the page. I wish to God that they would have put, after watching Widows, I wish they would have cast Daniel Kaluuya as Killmonger.
I don't disagree.
That would have been amazing.
I don't disagree. Michael B. Jordan is. They could have done. I don't disagree with your Michael B. Jordan point. 100%. Yeah. So you got something there.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Kaluuya would have just as Killmonger would have been the all-time great Marvel villain. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's hard to disassociate the two because it is such an important movie. But again, and the fact that it's another movie where it got nominated for Best Picture, and I think that muddies the water more as the conversation on it. But yeah, it's like I said, it's not a bad movie. Like I said, for me, and I'm not as big a MCU fan as you are, a lot of other people are. But for me, it's middle of the road. Some good, some bad, mixed bag for me. Everybody else on Black Panther.
This actually is like my number 5 MCU film. I love it to pieces. And I stand by. I think that the first time, like we see Wakanda when they're entering on the ship and go through the force fields, is one of like the biggest and most important movie scenes of the decade. It's like an incredible film, and it's maybe the MCU movie I think about the most. Even though there's ones I like more than it, I just come back and I think about everything that happened in this, and it's amazing. And the fact that you have however many above it is like, I'm excited to see what they are. But this being topped as a comic book film, the fact that it's been done still shocks me to this day.
I actually disagree with everyone. I think depends on what day you ask me, but this could be the best MCU movie. I think the third act has some problems or whatever, but so does The Force Awakens. I mean, we're just talking about that. And yeah, I actually think it is completely, totally blasphemous to criticize Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. That's insane to me. He enters a room and it's like objective fact that he just brings so much charisma and so much energy to every moment he's on screen. And the way that he can he kind of sneaks into the movie where you're like, oh, this is he's kind of a glorified henchman for the first little bit. And then when there's a fucking mic drop in this movie where he's like, no, this was my whole plan from the start. And yeah, I think it's so interesting how that villain is designed to be critical of Wakanda, which is the real star of the movie, not Black Panther. Wakanda is that's the real idea of this movie. What if there was a future city in the heart of Africa? And yeah.
Black Panther is a really good movie, and I think I appreciate it even more in retrospect, because it's one of the MCU movies that actually has like genuine artistry to it. Like, it doesn't feel like it is just a cog in the machine, right, of the MCU. Like something like Black Widow or Captain Marvel, just to name some recent examples, are just completely anonymous movies to me. Like, there's just nothing that leaves a lasting impact about those movies, and there's so much craft on display in Black Panther. We haven't mentioned like the women of the movie either, which Lupita Nyong'o, Letitia Wright, Denai Guerrero, all of them are excellent. And also behind the camera, you mentioned Ruth Carter. Yeah, like some of the coolest moments for me with this movie were, number one, watching Ruth Carter win the Oscar for costume design, and then Hannah Beachler, who was the production designer, that was the first African American to even be nominated for production design and then won, which was awesome. I do agree with you, though, that the other Oscar, Ludwig Göransson should not have won. Justin Hurwitz should have won for First Man, and he wasn't even nominated. But anyway, I fought that battle already. I mean, of the nominees, yes, Nicholas.
My favorite score of all time. Yes, it should have fucking won.
Again, Justin Hurwitz did a better job. But anyway, we're not here to litigate that. Black Panther's a great movie. I agree with. I understand both sides of the villain thing, like, because I think Daniel Kaluuya is a better actor, but I think Michael B. Jordan is more of a movie star, and I think you need a little bit of both for this role. So I don't know. I think either one of them could have done the job.
Give me the actor over the movie star every time. But that's just me. Jake, we're going to move on to you and your number 47.
Okay. A great woman once said, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. That's Hannah Montana. But no, my pick is not Hannah Montana.
Motherfucker. No, get off the show. You can't bait switch me and Scott like that.
I have a point to make. Up until this point in the list, I don't think that there's any movie that if someone was like, yeah, like, fuck this movie, that I would like, I'd walk away from you and be like, I don't think we could, I don't think I respect your taste. But should I? Yeah, but with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, my number 47 pick. If you don't like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I don't get it. I don't understand you. We must watch movies in a very different way. Like if I was on like a date and some girl was like, you know what movie I fucking hate, and okay, I think we're not compatible. Okay, so Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Just talk about it really quickly. It's Ang Lee doing repressed emotions, which is what he's best at. He did it 2 films later in Brokeback Mountain, and actually, I guess in Hulk as well, Repressing Anger. But this is one about where people can't share their love with each other, and the dialogue and the story is so subdued, and it just explodes into like this amazing like battle dance in the sky with the wire work, and it's so expressive and beautiful. And really in the dialogue, the mic drop is that it's yeah, Chow Yun Fat, he says like I didn't know this sword was stolen when I came back, to Michelle Yeoh, implying that he came back from Michelle Yeoh. And that's the moment where you're like, damn, like get these two together. And yeah, so Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I haven't seen this one since it came out. I barely remember, and I honestly, back then, I was not a big fan. I want to go back and rewatch now because obviously my opinion on Asian cinema has really evolved and changed and grown. So I think I'd really like it now. I just haven't gone back to it yet. So that's something I need to do. Everybody else on Crouching Tiger.
I'm in the same boat in Kirk in terms of timeline. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I did watch it in theaters when it came out as a 12-year-old, and it was fucking amazing. It's a great fucking film. So it's just, I guess my only thing is it's just hard to go back to. That's the only reason why I haven't seen it. It's a hard one to like say, let's watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, standoff. So I actually have never seen the movie. I added it to my watch list as we were sitting here. I don't know why I haven't seen it. There's zero chance I wouldn't like it. Ang Lee, I really enjoy as a filmmaker, especially his 90s movies are the ones that I have seen the most, like The Ice Storm and Sense and Sensibility and Eat, Drink, Man, Woman. I think are all great. And I would love to see his sensibility applied to a martial arts movie. So again, there's no chance I wouldn't like it. I just haven't seen it yet.
I have not seen it, and I've only seen a singular Ang Lee film, so I don't know if I'd like it. So,
all right, Jake, 46.
Yeah, at 46, Will Smith once said, "The good guys dress in black. Remember that, just in case we come face to face and make contact." The movie I chose was Men in Black. Yeah, I can't imagine not having a blast with this movie. I remember, I don't know if it was the first time that I saw it, but a pivotal time that I saw it was when my family, we live in Southern Ontario, and it's about a 9-hour drive to New York City, and my parents wanted to show us New York City. So like they packed us into this minivan, and they had a little power converter and a little TV, like a cathode ray like TV, one of those shitty old ones. And they put on a bunch of like movies that took place in New York to like prep us for like, here, you're about to see an iconic city. Like, get ready for this. So we watched this. We watched Men in Black probably a few times on that trip. And like suddenly like my young mind like changed, where I was like, oh, like this is a movie about this city. Walking around the city, I would see all of these people who, to me, when I was a little kid, looked like a bunch of weirdos. Like I'd never seen like New York City people before. And I was like, oh, they look like the Men in Black aliens. I get it now. They look like a bunch of aliens in disguise. And as I get older, I recognize that New York is an immigrant city, and Men in Black is largely a movie about Earth as this immigrant planet. And yeah, I just don't think on top of that, I don't think you beat Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith's charisma. I think this is like arguably the best comedy version of Will Smith that we've ever got. And that's all I have to say about Men in Black.
I had Men in Black at 70. And that opening scene of that opening part of the test scene where he has the table and he pulls the table close to him and he's dealing with the pencil and pen. That is it. I had not seen this movie for a long time, and then I finally rewatched it. I think for one of Tony's FPTLs because I did Will Smith 90s films. And I forgot how good this film is. I think this is one of the most underrated films in history. I don't think people give it enough credit on how much it actually was a sci-fi action comedy film that is very succinct, very tight. The duo is amazing. The comedy hits very well, and it just moves. And it is more than just your average sci-fi action movie. Like the story with it, the combination of them two together, the amount that the comedy fits so well within it, and the world that it builds, the connection it has to the city of New York. I watched it and I was like, this is so much better than I remember. And this is one of the best sci-fi movies, one of the best action movies. Period.
Did anybody else have this? Okay. Mark, I agree with you. This is an average sci-fi comedy. It's an above average sci-fi comedy. It's fun. I think it is what it is. I think it's honestly, I'd call this another one of those like Saturday afternoon cable movies. One I'm not going to trash or talk bad about, but it's not super memorable for me. It has some decent moments, but the 90s Will Smith run to Independence Day, those are all good, not great, in my opinion. Spence and Scott, what are your thoughts on Men in Black?
I haven't seen it since I was like relatively young, and like 14. I really loved it then. I think when I eventually rewatch it, I'm gonna love it even more. My one like big like thesis statement is like I think Vincent D'Onofrio gives one of the best performances in a comic book movie ever.
Thank you.
Should have been nominated for an Oscar. Probably could have won in a weaker year, but 97 is a fucking killer year for supporting actor apparently. But no, this movie's rad.
What are we doing? Yeah, Men in Black is a ton of fun though. I really enjoy the movie. It's been a little bit since I've seen it as well. I don't care that much about the action in the movie that much, but I do love the comedy and the relationship between these two guys. Like Tommy Lee Jones, I feel like is such unusual casting, but it works like so well. But him bouncing off the charisma, like the charisma of Will Smith at the top of his game, and of course, like the whole here are the celebrities who are actually aliens. That the comedy of that is still peak.
All right, Jake, number 45.
45, I have Robocop. This is Paul Verhoeven's real breakout Hollywood movie anyways. It's the one that really balances the satire on American culture, on gun culture, on police culture. It balances all that satire with genuine human emotion, and that's what I love about it so much without beating it to death. He's said before this is his American Jesus movie, and love Robocop.
Yeah, RoboCop is great. I love what Verhoeven does here. This is, I think, him doing what he does best, at his best, which is like satire and commentary, but not at all trying to be clean or like completely appealing to the masses, and just being like violent and over the top and gross with it, and a lot of fun, but still having something to say. Yeah, it's just the action and the violence is it's like terrible in the best way. Just all the squibs and all that like practical effects is so good. Kurtwood Smith as the villain I think we talked about this, Jake, on the villain episode. I just love the way he plays this. Like he plays the whole movie like the dad from that 70s show. He plays it like just a pissed off dad going on vacation. And I love that about him, and just how just that difference between him and like the corporate villains, and how they think they have the upper hand, but they really don't, and how little control they actually have. Yeah, that's just a really fun movie. Everybody else on RoboCop?
Haven't seen it. Sorry. Yeah, no.
I've seen it. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I liked it when I saw it, but I don't really remember much from it. Verhoeven's cool though.
If I saw it as a child, I don't remember. I saw it, so I'm going to say I saw it for the first time this past year. It's pretty damn good. It's uber violent and just so violent. That's really all I got to say. It is so violent.
Absolutely, that's the word to use to describe it. That's proper. All right, Jake, we're going to your 44.
At 44, I have Evil Dead 2. Yeah. So this is Sam Raimi's. After making Evil Dead, he basically took all the money that he made from Evil Dead and made the movie that he wanted to make. And I think I said it on an earlier episode. I'll quote it again, though. Quentin Tarantino said that after Raising Arizona and Evil Dead 2, no one wanted to make a movie the way they made it before, because all the interesting camera tricks and design choices and how they would put holes in walls and just all these crazy tricks that they were doing. And yeah, I think it's pretty incredible that Bruce Campbell also, as Sam Raimi's old friend, perfectly matches the tone of what Sam Raimi's going for. I think that's pretty remarkable that they're that in sync.
Okay, Evil Dead 2 I watched for the first time a couple months ago going into the show. I see the appeal. For me, I think this is yet another one that kind of suffers on the hype and all the build up for it. Technically, obviously, there's a lot of great stuff going on, all like the tracky shots and the dolly shots and everything, and that scene where the camera pulls away real fast. Just the camera work in general, this is so good. But for me, it's just more. It's one of those horror movies where they had ideas of what if this happened? And what if this happened? And they just did that. There's no the cohesive story doesn't really do it for me. And I'll be completely honest, I like Bruce Campbell. But I feel like he's so overhyped to the point where it's how Betty White was 10 years ago. I think that's who Bruce Campbell is right now. And I understand I think he's very he's very entertaining, very charismatic. I don't think he was there. The Bruce Campbell we know now is not the Bruce Campbell in this movie. I don't think he does as much to carry this movie as a lot of people talk about. But like I said, I get the appeal. Everybody else on Evil Dead 2.
I have not seen it. Love Army of Darkness, though.
I binged the trilogy last year. I also wasn't really impressed by the first two. They're sort of just there. Maybe not my type of comedy. Just didn't really hit for me. Army of Darkness is fun, but this one I don't think I'll ever really get the love for it.
I need to see them because generally I am a fan of Sam Raimi, but haven't gotten to it yet. Sorry.
Okay, that was Jake's number 44. We're going to get to top 3 for the night, starting with Scott's number 43.
All right, my number 43, super underrated movie from 2018, the thriller Searching. Yeah, this movie blew me away when I saw it in theaters. The movie starts again, I saw the trailers. I thought, oh, this would be a cool thriller, right? It's got this gimmick of it's on screen. It's all taking place on computer screens. That's neat. That's inventive. And you sit down and the first 8 minutes of this movie happen and you're like, whoa, this was not what I was expecting at all, because the opening sequences is incredibly emotional. It's one of my favorite opening sequences in a movie, the way that in 8 minutes, just without dialogue, they tell this whole story of what happened to the mother of this family. And just the little details, the way that, again, they use technology, she has cancer, spoiler alert, whatever. You see that she has an appointment on the calendar, and then they end up moving the appointment 2 weeks later, and then the appointment just gets dragged to the recycle bin. And they don't have to tell you what happened, right? You know what happened. Just the way that they use that show not tell filmmaking, I think, is really ingenious throughout the movie. So you get that to start the movie, and you're like, whoa, I didn't realize this was going to be this kind of movie. Then the plot kicks in. I think it's a really suspenseful, well-crafted thriller. There's great twists. Definitely keeps you guessing. but the whole time it is keeping you anchored to that emotional center, and that, like, the family drama that is going on between John Cho as David and his daughter Margot, and like he is trying to, maintain their relationship in the wake of this tragedy that they have had to face, and he feels like his daughter pulling away from him, like, metaphorically speaking, and then literally she goes missing, and it's him trying to literally find her, but also to repair their relationship, to, like, try to find some sort of family connection in the wake of this tragedy, and it keeps you anchored to that emotional center, like, that is why you care about what is happening in the plot. You really do care. John Cho gives a really committed performance. It's very difficult to do what he does and create a charismatic, like, protagonist when you're just sitting in front of a computer screen the entire time. I like the way that they use the game. Like, the editing is incredible. I like the way that they use, like, it's not just on computer screens, right? Like, Unfriended started the whole thing with, like, oh, we're just going to be on a chat room or whatever. Well, they mix it up, right? Like, they use, like, news footage. There's at one point where he's, like, out. He actually is outside and he's FaceTiming, and they find ways to expand it in a way that makes it more dynamic to watch, but doesn't, like, compromise the framing device that they're going for. And yeah, it's a great movie. Like, again, they pay off the emotional stuff at the very end. There's a text message at the very end that gets sent, that, like, when it gets sent, it's such a satisfying way. It comes back around from the beginning of the movie. This movie is so smart and thrilling. More people should still be talking about it, because I think it really rewrote the game for thrillers when it came out, and it showed what you can do with this technology, but also just the power that a great story still has. So I love this movie.
Yeah, I watched this for the show, and I didn't have high expectations, to be honest, because I know, like, they did the Unfriended thing, and it felt kind of like a gimmick. But it works so well. This movie, somehow they take this gimmick and they make it. I said this in my Letterboxd review. It's like a really good thriller, and also like a very touching family drama. Like, I compared that first 5 or 10 minutes. It's like the beginning of Up, like that kind of story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except this movie, this has a good movie after that. But no, I think just the way it uses the technology to tell the story is so creative and so original. Just all the different platforms and portals they use, and the way they bounce around. They never really. I couldn't tell if there were any cheats. I think they were on screen the entire time. If it's there, I missed it.
Yeah.
But they do a really good job of piecing it all together to tell you the story. And it's really interesting. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's definitely worthwhile. I understand why some people might not be into it, because it has that gimmicky feel, but it's really solid. Everybody else on I almost said Unfriended, on Searching.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to put a movie as kind of gimmicky, frankly, as Searching, as the 43rd best movie of all time. It's really kind of
My
just
43rd favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's just kind of it's within the subgenre of found footage still, even though they find a bunch of clever ways around it. I think the thing that you guys are really impressed by is like, oh, like they managed to tell this whole story on screen without compromising anything, and it's like, I didn't feel that really. I like the movie a lot, but I do feel that there's times where, oh, we got to put a camera over here, and he's constantly on screen explaining everything. It doesn't feel real. It feels like a very slick movie version of something unfolding on screen. It feels very carefully put together, but I think that the movie would gain some realism from having a few blind spots within what you actually are seeing, and actually chopping it up a little bit more.
I feel the exact opposite. I forgot I was watching a quote unquote gimmick. I forgot we were on screens. This is just a great fucking film. And the fact that I forgot that we were just watching purely on screens shows how well and how much of not a gimmick this movie is. As Scott said, it's just a really well used framing device. Everything about this, it's what a thriller is supposed to be. From beginning to end, I was sucked in, and those first 8 minutes are heart-wrenching. And you are right, that text at the end was like, oh, thank you. So good. Such a good.
The 3 dots pop up, and you know what's about to come, and then it comes.
Like shit.
Yes.
This is a great fucking movie. It is so good. I preached it to all my friends back in 2018. It's not super like relevant in my conversations now, but I stand by this is probably one of the best films of that year, which is already a great fucking year, which is high praise. I'm still weirded out by the fact they're doing a sequel. I'm still going to see it because this movie just fucking shocked me that much.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm tempering my expectations, but we'll see.
All right, Spence, on to your number 43.
Gentlemen, be excellent to each other. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, one of my favorite comedies of all time. Such like an incredible movie, which is also coincidentally one of the most anti-meme movies if you think about it. This is the film that really shouldn't work the way that it does. A bunch of dumbass douchebag high schoolers who just want to pass a history exam. It's just like a simple premise that I would probably hate, but I fucking love everything about it. I'm a small history nerd, so getting to see them go back through time and meeting all these historical figures and seeing how they react to modern day everything is just awesome. The fucking jokes are hilarious. Shout out to Rufus. I'm forgetting his name, but fucking Rufus
George
is
Carlin.
the GOAT. Thank you. George Carlin is the fucking GOAT. This is just a movie that I sort of was like unexpected to like the first time I watched, and then I was like, okay, I'm not just shocked that I like it this much. Like, I love it this much, and I rewatched it like 3 times over like a year. I love this fucking film to pieces. If Brian were here, he'd back me up. I forget how Kirk feels. He doesn't look happy though, so we will see. Kirk is excellent.
The good news is you didn't pick the second one.
Oh, I don't like Bogus Running like at all.
Good. Yeah. Overall, one of my least favorite things in movies are characters who are based on catchphrases or just a stereotype of a type of character. And this falls into that for me. This isn't as bad as this. The second one is just a mess. Like, these characters are nothing but catchphrases in the second movie. There's a little more depth to them here, a little more humor. I like the storyline better. I like the time travel stuff. That's a lot of fun. So again, it's not a movie that I love, but it is a movie that it's fun. Again, top 100, nah, but it's fun. Everybody else on Bill and Ted.
So the reason that I think that Bill and Ted doesn't fall into the category of characters based on just cliches and catchphrases is because the writers Ed Solomon and Chris Matheson had actually been doing these characters on the road in colleges. They both played these characters in sketches, and so that's why these characters actually, I think, feel so fleshed out for being on paper what seems like a two-dimensional character. The more and more time you spend with Bill and Ted, as similar as they are distinct characters, which I think says a lot. And I think the other way that they avoid this is that they throw them in such a crazy cuckoo bananas plot instead of just making it, a day in the life of Bill and Ted, something that Wayne's World does, which or more so, which I also not saying Wayne's World is bad. I love Wayne's World, but I think it's really interesting.
I had the pleasure of watching Bogus Journey first and falling in love with it as a kid. And then as I got older and I was a teenager, I watched this and realized how much better of a film this is. Excellent Adventure was in my 80s or 90s, probably up until a week before I said, I'm done and final, and I knocked it off. I love this film. It has a lot more heart than you think it would. I don't think there is as cliche and just one-linery because of that heart that they have for each other and they have with everybody they pick up. Freaking Keanu Reeves and I always forget my man's name, Alex Winter. Just them two together you just love them. I love this film.
I've only seen Bogus Journey because of Ethan. We had to watch it for a title match. J7, never forget, is the battleship space that they sink in the movie. I will never forget that now. But I don't think this type of comedy is for me, if I'm being honest. So it's probably best that I haven't seen this one, even though it is probably better than Bogus Journey. Sorry, Ethan.
So great.
All right, Amaru, give me your number 43.
All right, so take 43 and 44, and depending on the day or week I finalized it, they could have been in either order, but it ended up that my 43 was Iron Man. This falls on the shoulders of RDJ a lot. It is one of the most perfect castings of a comic book character ever. He embodies Tony Stark. He embodies Iron Man, but it also is just a kick-ass film. That the opening the escape from the cave sequence is one of the best action sequences of the entirety of Phase 1. Also, still one of the best action sequences of the entirety of the franchise, based off what it was and when it came out, and the fact that it kicked off the most successful franchise of all time. You go back and watch Iron Man, and after that, you realize there really isn't that much action in this film. It's much more character based, much more kind of story based. I can't not say he built this in a cave. It's a bunch of scraps because freaking Jeff Bridges is just cool as shit. Terrence Howard, man, he got kind of screwed, man. But I want to see him in a What If episode. I don't know if they'll actually do that, but I'd love to see it. As much as I love Don Cheadle, I kind of think he fit. I think he worked better off of RDJ than Don Cheadle does. And Don Cheadle is amazing. This is one of the third act action sequences that I think is worse than Black Panther, though. So that's why they change so much, because this movie is so good. It makes Gwyneth Paltrow interesting to a degree. But this is so good. But I think that the fact that it was the first one, and it was literally the basis of every other kind of underwhelming Act 3 fight, this is one of the worst ones. But I still forgive it because of it still finds clever things to come into it. It brings the call back to the icing problem. But I love this fucking movie. And it kicks off one of my favorite franchises of all time. And I'm still mad at myself, but I forgive myself because I did not stay in theaters because I didn't know what's coming. And I wish I would have seen that post-credit in theaters. I have not left the movie theater without checking ever since. Love the film.
Terrence Howard would be a great pick for a multiverse cameo somewhere along the line here with all these multiverse.
Please.
The man thinks 2 + 2 = 5. Okay, can we just acknowledge that for a second? 2 times 2, yeah.
Yeah, 2 times 1 times 1 is 2.
But yeah, this is a really solid pick. This is another one, an early one that still holds up. So much about this movie shouldn't have worked. Robert Downey Jr. at that point in his career was still kind of, iffy, and they took this basically a character off the scrap heap that Marvel didn't sell off in the 90s. Like, okay, who we got left over? I guess Iron Man will make an Iron Man movie, and it's so good and it works. I think Favreau is the best IP director out there because he has so much respect and love for what he's working with. Like, he doesn't coddle it and like do all kind of fan servicey stuff. But you can tell he loves same thing, what he's doing with Star Wars right now. You can tell he has a respect and a love for what he's working with. And that's so rare to find. My favorite thing about this movie is how they actually go through like the iterations of the suit is such an integral part of the Iron Man character in the comics. And the fact they start with the Buckethead suit and they evolve from there in one movie is really amazing. But yeah, RDJ obviously is fantastic in this. The third act is rough. It sets that tone for the same that isn't a lot of fun to watch. It's not very interesting. But Jeff Bridges out of the suit is a really good villain. And yeah, if this movie didn't work, then we have no MCU. So it had so much writing on it without us even knowing. And it's like I said, it still holds up to this day. I know Spence had to step away for a minute. Scott and Jake on Iron Man.
Awesome movie. It's my second favorite MCU movie. It is just crazy to look back on it and think that this was the one that started, right? Because, like you said, Kirk, it's a hero that, or one of you said, it's like a character that most people weren't familiar with at the time. You have Robert Downey Jr., right, who was just coming back from substance abuse treatment. Like that was the narrative surrounding him as an actor at this point. And you're going to put this massive franchise potential on the shoulders of this movie, and they nailed it. And the thing was, again, they didn't have the box office mojo like they have nowadays, where you could just put out any old thing with the MCU label on it and it makes almost $1 billion. They had to actually make a good movie, in order to get people to want to come back, and they did. They made a great movie. I agree. I think the third act and some of the Jeff Bridges stuff is the only thing that keeps it from being 5 out of 5 stars for me. But the movie's so entertaining. Robert Downey Jr. still the best MCU character for me, as Tony, as Iron Man. Not a hot take, I know, but he kills it. It's a super fun movie that really holds up. So I respect the pick, because I think people forget about it nowadays when talking about the greatest movies in the MCU, because it was the first one. I think they're like, oh, it was the first one, but it's not the best. No, it's almost the best one.
Yeah, I like that all you guys respect Jeff Bridges' performance as whatever his name is. I always see people. Pardon?
Obadiah Stane.
Yeah, I really love him in this movie. I think he's doing a lot, and I love it. And when I see him consistently ranked very low on MCU villain lists, it confirms my suspicion that most people just don't know what good acting is. It makes me think, oh yeah, most people just don't know what they're talking about. It's maybe they don't like that he's in a robot suit at the end, and there's a bunch of like you guys said, the third act. Maybe that's what they're. Yeah, right. That's maybe.
Yeah, he is underrated. He is underrated as a villain. He is one of the better villains.
I think if you take away that third act and the whole suit thing, I think he's remembered a lot more fondly.
Yes, he is.
All right, that takes us to Jake and his number 43.
At number 43, I have Ed Wood. My favorite Tim Burton movie. I think it's his masterpiece. If you haven't seen Ed Wood, or you don't know who Ed Wood is, he's a famous director. If you've seen The Disaster Artist, which is about Tommy Wiseau, this is kind of the proto disaster artist with Ed Wood, who was a B-movie director from the 50s. And the thing that makes this movie so special is that it is just brimming with love and respect for this terrible, terrible artist, and the circle that he cultivates of misfits. There's always, for the longest time, I'd watch this movie, and I'd rewatch it, and I get worried that the scene where he comes out as a cross-dresser is coming out, and am I gonna think back and watch this again and be like, ooh. And every time it just ages better and better, where people, it's triumphant in the movie. And this is in 1994. It's a triumphant moment for him. This isn't just a freak show like I felt that The Disaster Artist was. I feel like this is a genuinely loving tribute while still being funny.
Yeah, I agree. This is, I would say, it's definitely not my favorite Burton, but it's up there. It's in the upper hemisphere for me. I think that's what Burton does great. He's so good at taking that the outcast and shining a positive light on them. And I think doing that, as well as the on the flip side, like you said, just respecting the passion and just how important that is, the passion and the effort, regardless of the result. Just doing what you love and finding a way to persevere. And Ed Wood's such a great tragic hero in that sense, where everything he did is terrible and it never slowed him down. It's when that scene where he's talking about the movie, the guy's like, it's crap. He's like, the next one will be better. And just how he's like completely like keeping that positivity, how that infects everybody around him, and how he like engenders that feeling of let's keep going, let's get he gathers this like ragtag band together, like shouldn't work, but like it does. They get it done, and I think that's pretty cool. Depp's performance for the most part is pretty good. I think there's certain moments, like I hate that scene where he's watching the movie and he's mouthing along like real obviously with that big smile on his face. Like stuff like that's like a little bit too over the top Johnny Depp stuff. But for the most part, I really like how he does this. And the rest of the cast, Bill Murray, George Animal Steele, everybody's is really solid in this. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. I don't think Spence, you didn't have Ed Wood on your list, did you?
I didn't.
Okay, everybody else on Ed Wood.
Yeah, this is also probably my favorite Tim Burton movie. This or Big Fish. I like how grounded the movie is, because I think with Tim Burton, for me, sometimes the like deliberate oddball nature of it is what like turns me off. But this is just a movie, like it's a true story. It's about a filmmaker, and I like the same things that you guys have said about it. That yeah, it just shows like that we need to appreciate people for just getting a movie made for the most part, and for being able to pursuing your dreams despite everyone telling you you can't do it, despite all the adversity preventing you from doing it. Just pursuing your dreams is worth something, and so I really like that sentiment from the movie. It's a lot of fun.
This is my favorite Tim Burton movie. Actually, it's not. It's my second favorite, but it's real fucking good. Like I'm honestly blown away by how it's very Burton-esque and also not. And I feel like he did a good job of balancing his like eccentricities as well as like restraining himself to tell like a really good story. Depp's amazing. Really great pick.
Have not seen it.
All right, that takes us to Scott. You're number 42.
All right, my number 42, the highly influential classic, All the President's Men. So I love movies about journalism and I love procedurals, and this movie is like the blueprint for both of those. It inspired a lot of movies for decades to come, including some movies which will probably pop up later on my list, perhaps. But this movie is still very entertaining, like for how dense the subject matter is. Like, I mean, it's still kind of like hard to follow. There's all these, subcommittees and all these different, cabinet members and stuff that you're trying to keep up with, who did what, who knew what. Um, it's not simply a movie about, oh, the president was linked to all this. Like that only becomes part of the story, like late on, right? That it's like, oh wow, this goes all the way to the top. A lot of it, in the beginning is just sort of cutting through the red tape and the bureaucracy, but it just makes the grunt work of journalism like just pop and be so lively. Like there's like a 15-minute sequence of Robert Redford just talking on the phone, and he's just like, he calls someone, he gets information from them, and that leads him to another person, and he immediately calls them, and then he calls the first, and he's just sitting there talking on the phone for 15 minutes, and like I just want it like injected into my veins. Like it's just, I love watching those types of movies where it's just people doing their jobs, people being good at their jobs. It's not the sexiest job, obviously, but the movie just like moves. And the script, I think, is really like sharp and witty. Like the two, the banter between Woodward and Bernstein, between Redford and Hoffman. It's a real sort of buddy cop type relationship that I really like. I mean, I think I said this before, but Robert Redford is just like one of my absolute favorites from this era. And I think he's perfect for this role of Woodward, but also like the supporting cast, like Martin Balsam, Jason Robards, like won an Oscar as Ben Bradley. Like he's phenomenal in the movie. Just like the ethical quandaries that they have to face about like, how far do we go? At what point, like, they're talking to Deep Throat and he's having, second thoughts about like, what am I a traitor? Is it at a certain point, is this treasonous? What I'm doing. And they're all themes that hold up to this day, obviously, with the journalism industry being, more under attack than ever, given recent events in our political world. And it's a thriller at its heart, and it still holds up and is just a really gripping, but also fun to watch movie, and just an all-time classic.
Yeah, we've talked in the past about how procedurals really just aren't my thing, but I still love this movie, and I think it's mostly just because of Redford and Hoffman. They're both so strong in this, and I mean they're just going at it the whole time, and just how they portray that pressure they're under, and like you said, the ethical and moral quandary of what their responsibility is. Plus how it's affecting them personally. I think they do that so well. And yeah, it's a really strong supporting cast. And that ending, this might be one of my all-time favorite endings of a movie ever.
Oh yeah.
Where it's just that it's drawing away from that TV and focusing more on them, and that just that unending typewriter clack, clack, clack is so good. And it just has so much to say about what's happening and what did happen in real life. It just perfect cherry on top of this movie. Everybody else on All the President's Men.
Not seen it.
Yeah, Scott said that it's not the sexiest job, but it's pretty sexy in this movie, right? Like Redford.
When it's Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty sexy.
And it's a movie. I was never like super impressed with it. I think it's just like I'm a child and have a short attention span, so 70s are sort of hard to work for me. Like I get what people like it. Better movies I could have seen.
All right. Well, tell us what one of those better movies are now, Spence, because you're 42.
Hey, Kirk. I'm going to pick one of your all-time favorite films.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's a great little film, 2008, that I know you love. Is that 2007? I forget. Whatever the fuck. You see it on the card. I'm picking Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. One of the great comedies, and 2007, comedies and parodies of all time. Y'all seen Walk the Line. This is that, but funny and better. I love this movie to fucking pieces. I think that the idea of taking such like a narrow concept of the musician biopic, which you'd think there isn't a lot to make fun of, but there's a lot. And John C. Reilly gives one of my favorite performances, like comedy performances of the decade, as just like this fucking like dumbass artist who like grows from tragedy into like a really like good musician. And it really shouldn't work. Like again, like I don't like dumb humor. When I think Brian had like basketball in his top 100 and I wanted to kill him. Everything in this movie works. Let's Do It is one of my favorite original songs of that year. It should have won I don't think it should have won the Oscar for it, but it was nominated, but it should have been nominated. And it all culminates into like this I won't say like genuinely emotional, but the end of the movie I think builds up to like you understand and you like sympathize with Dewey and his family. It's a really fun movie. Kirk hates it. I don't give a fuck. Y'all should watch it.
Hey guys, Walk the Line exists. Isn't that hilarious?
It's worse than this.
Isn't that hilarious that Walk the Line exists? I hope so. I hope you think so, because that's the only joke in the movie. That's it. That's the you know how sometimes in musical biopics, like somebody a character will cameo and the movie stops to like make sure you notice the cameo. I hope you think that's funny because that joke's in here like 16 times. Spence, you said there's not a lot of comedy to mine from musical biopics. You're obviously right, because there's not a lot of comedy in this movie. And the few jokes there are, they repeat over and over again. This movie sucks. The fact that you said this movie isn't dumb comedy is one of the worst statements I've ever heard.
I didn't say that. I don't normally like dumb comedy, but it works.
Yeah, no, this does not work. This movie is awful. It's not funny at all. The shining moment in this movie is Tim Meadows. He's the only funny thing, the only good thing in this. I mean, Tim Meadows is a treasure, and he should be in everything because he's always great. He's always hilarious. But the rest of this movie is absolute garbage. There's nothing redeeming. It's not fun. It's the worst, absolute worst. It's like Scary Movie level parody. It's the worst type of parody, which is the worst type of comedy and the worst type of movie. This movie sucks. Anybody else want to talk about it? You don't have to. You want to?
Yeah, I love this movie. This is probably my most quoted movie in like high school with my friends. Like we would just quote this thing constantly. Like wrong kid died. Anytime someone fucked up or something, you just say wrong kid died. Like it's a classic. When he sings that he cut his brother in half in an adult man's voice, and you never once paid for drugs. All these like. It's just like the most quotable movie. It's amazing. The cameos are all hilarious when the Beatles show up. It's so fucking stupid, but I love it. Also, I think this movie totally demolished Walk the Line. Like that movie is unwatchable now. Now that Walk Hard exists, it took that movie apart. Like there is like that movie is a carcass, and basically, I honestly have a theory that it like kind of ruined music biopics in general for a while because it took them apart so carefully and meticulously. Yeah, I really like this movie.
I haven't seen a good music biopic in quite a while, so you might be right about that. But unfortunately, I haven't seen this yet either. I do feel like I have seen it because I've heard so many of the quotes said very often. But again, I do think there is certainly comedic territory to be mined, in stale music biopics that we are still getting. I mean, we just had the Aretha Franklin movie. Did anyone see that? It was
put some respect on the movie.
It was like 2 hours and 40 minutes long, right? Anyway, that's just this year's example. Again, there's one or two every year. Bohemian Rhapsody, being one of the worst offenders too. But don't take me down that road. I want to see this, but I haven't yet.
Aretha was okay. Scott, you still got to go see Rocket Man because that shit is amazing.
I've seen it. I don't like it.
It's totally different.
Anyway, I don't like Walk the Line, so I definitely have not seen this film. There goes my 42.
What's Ruth's 42?
That movie slaps though.
What's Ruth's 42?
My 42 has the best. My 42 has the best opening scene in a comic book movie. Period. There probably is another one if I really think about it, but if you say best opening scene in a comic book movie, this is the first thing ever. It does Nightcrawler justice. PG-13 Berserker Wolverine is amazing because we at that point we don't get R-rated mostly anything if it isn't Blade. This movie is my favorite X-Men film. It is just so good from front to almost back. The only thing I don't like and I kind of skip over is Mutant 143. I don't like that. I don't like that part of the film. But other than that, it's attached to the best part of the movie or one of the best part of the movies. For me, what makes a great film, or especially a great comic book film, is a great comic book villain. And Brian Cox is peak upper echelon comic book villain. You pair his acting performance together with the magnum opus of duos of Sir Ian McKellen, and Sir Patrick. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Thank you, Patrick Stewart. The two of them together, the conversation they have before Lady Deathstrike comes in, and Magneto and knocks out Cyclops. When Ian McKellen yells, "You should have killed me when you had the chance." They are so damn great as the Malcolm X Martin Luther King dichotomy throughout the entire series, even in the bad ones. And this X2 is just pinnacle comic book movie. What you want in a comic book movie. It's not overly serious that it's hard to rewatch, but it doesn't fall into just the cookie cutter anything. It is amazing. And I love the fight between Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike because Wolverine gets his ass whooped. And it's always good to see that Wolverine can get his ass whooped because he's not going to die. But you worry a little bit. I love this film. I love this film today.
Yeah, I grew up as a big comic book nerd, and when they I got a little older, they started putting all these movies out. All some good, some bad, but every once in a while, one of these movies just lifts a character off the page and puts it onto the screen, and that's what this movie did with Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is such an underrated character, just so good, and that they got even the sound of that, the bam, 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 just the smoke, just so perfect. And this is top 2 X-Men movies for me. This is definitely one of the best. But Nightcrawler for me is probably my favorite character in the series. I wish they would have came back. Alan Cumming was so perfectly cast, and they just the look, the personality, the power set, everything is so perfect with that character. But the rest of the movie is really good too. They get this is with the original cast. This is probably the best Magneto, Professor X stuff we get, because this series does get that relationship so perfectly right as well. And it's at its best when Magneto is like the anti-hero, where he's they have to come together. Those are always the most fun X-Men stories, and they did so good here. And the whole, I'm thinking the third movie, Juggernaut's not in this, so I was going to complain about Juggernaut. He's not in this. But no, this is probably the best cast of the 3, top to bottom. So yeah, I love this movie. This is a really solid pick. This is one of the best, to me, one of the best, pre-MCU Marvel movies. Everybody else on X2.
We can talk about X-Men United, or no, sorry, X3, The Last Stand. Really underrated movie. I know Rue loves it. This is unacceptable. Fuck you, Koho. Go back to your match. I enjoy this. I've been meaning to rewatch all of the X-Men movies. Really, they sort of blend together because I watched basically all at once. Good pick. Wouldn't have made my top 100, but most X-Men movies I don't think are that amazing, other than Days of Future Past and First Class.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a comic book movie shill, which is the opposite of what I am, but we've had some really good ones tonight on the list. This is another one. This is just like my golden era of comic book movies. Like, this is when they actually felt like comic books on screen to me. Like, that's what I would say about the early 2000s comic book movies. So a lot of my favorites are in here. This is definitely one. I think it's probably the best X-Men movie. I really like the original movie as well. But I just hate, they did such a good job of setting us up for the Dark Phoenix stuff in the third movie, like, with the flames and everything at the end, and then X-Men: The Last Stand happened.
Brett Ratner had
it. I think Brian Cox is really scary in this movie. When I was a kid and I saw this, I was really scared of him. And there's certain images in movies that just kind of haunt you as a child. I remember one of them was or just the idea in The Sixth Sense that someone's mom was making them sick on purpose. That fucked with me as a kid. And seeing this father, Stryker, take his son and do that to him, it's really that was nightmarish imagery. I'm surprised you don't like it though, Rue. Is that why you don't like it? You think it's too far?
No. The dynamic between the two of them is great. I just think the mutant himself, and then when it's just him and then the little girl in Xavier's mind, I think it falls into a little bit of this is a little too campy. Yeah. I also do think though his look kind of creeps me out a bunch, so I kind of don't want to watch him. So that's another reason why I'm on that part, because he's very creepy. But in connection to Brian Cox, that's great. Just him himself is just okay, let's move on.
Specifically the screwdriver speech. Yes. Okay.
All right. Jake, that's going to take us to your number 42.
My number 42, I can't talk about too much because talking about it would ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. It's The Handmaiden, the Park Chan-wook movie. This movie, I can give you the setup that it's about two con artists trying to trick this rich young woman into marrying this con artist man and to get all her money and kill her, basically kill her and get all her money. They're planning this, but the movie unfolds like in a clockwork like way that every piece just falls together in such a precise way that's so satisfying, and you're constantly getting revealed new layers as to what you had originally been watching as you're watching the movie unfold. So to say anything more, I feel like I'd be spoiling it, but I will say that it's probably Park Chan-wook's most accessible movie. It's definitely a little gross, but not old boy gross. So yeah.
Yeah, you're right. This movie's hard to talk about, so you can't say too much. But this is another one I've been wanting to watch for a long time, and I finally got the opportunity because of this, and I really liked it. I was interested in it. I was interested in the story until got to a certain point, and if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, oh, this is, where's this? How's this movie going to be 2 hours long? Where's it going? And then, and then something happens. You're like, oh, okay. And then it goes a complete different direction. And then it goes, and it kind of has like a Rashomon thing where you're seeing it from different perspectives, and it goes back and, fills in the story, and it gets just better and better and better. It's just a great, like, little crime thriller, and it's got some real, the dirty old men stuff. Kind of, I can do without that. But I mean, it serves the plot of the movie. It's not that gratuitous. But yeah, it was really good. I really liked this one. I was really glad I got a chance to watch this. Anybody else seen Handmaiden?
Yeah.
Good movie.
The octopus tank at the end is top banter by Park Chan-wook, considering his history with octopi in movies. But sorry if I cut you off, Spence. I thought you were done. But the movie slaps. If I had seen it more than once, I very easily could have made my list. I would say, we talked about Parasite already, another Korean movie. It has the same quality of, like, you have no idea what's going to happen next in this movie. And
I would say this. It does have a lot of Parasite feels, and I might like this one more.
Shit.
It's a great movie, and it is accessible. My only caveat: don't watch it with your parents. There are some very explicit scenes.
Don't watch this with anybody. Watch this alone in a room somewhere, because it's.
But watch it. Definitely watch it, because it's awesome.
I need to rewatch it. I hadn't seen it since 2016, and I was like lukewarm on it then, just because like everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is so amazing." However, I will always support queer cinema, so I'm gonna watch it eventually. Just like it's gonna take some time.
It's a little sexy too. I feel like we didn't say that. This is a sexy movie.
It is.
It's sexy, but it's also very anti-sexy in a lot of places. Like
yeah.
Rue, you see this one?
I have not seen it.
All right, that's going to take us to everybody's top pick for the night, starting with Scott, number 41.
All right. Previously, I talked about my second favorite movie about my favorite sport. That was The Natural. My favorite movie about my favorite sport, Moneyball. Moneyball just gets it. The scene of Billy Bean at the very beginning when he has the radio in the stadium and he's like turning it on, turning it back off because he can't bear to listen to the end of the game between the A's and the Yankees, because he knows what's about to happen, right? He knows that the Yankees are going to win. When you're a fan of a losing team like I am with the Cleveland Guardians, that is your agony. That is your daily agony of rooting for this team. Like it's never been more perfectly captured in a movie of like, they make it far or something. They're in a big game, and you just know that the worst possible outcome is going to happen, but you just can't look away or whatever. So right from the beginning, the movie just like establishes that it gets what is so great about baseball, and that is sentiment throughout the entire movie. How can you not be romantic about baseball? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how, especially after watching this movie. Even people who don't like baseball like this movie, because it takes something that should, like, no way should it be good fodder for a movie, like the statistical revolution in baseball, and it makes it just crackle. And obviously the script by Steve Zalian and Aaron Sorkin is like a huge reason for that. It has like that great Sorkin wit to it, particularly the interactions between Brad Pitt Brad Pitt and Philip Seymour Hoffman as the manager, which is just hilarious casting because Philip Seymour Hoffman strikes me as a guy who probably has never watched a game of baseball in his life. Like that's just the person. That's the impression I get of him, and that's how he plays this character of Art Howard. Like he's just pissed off the entire time, and like I said, the interactions are so funny. Like he refuses to start Hatterberg, and so Brad Pitt just trades everyone to the other team, so he has to start him. He's like, no, Pena's playing first. He plays for Detroit now, Art. And then when again Art House is being all grouchy, and they finish the conversation, and Brad Pitt is just like, Art, every time we talk, I'm reinvigorated by my love for the game. And it's just hilarious. Jonah Hill is great too, as the former Indians scout, statistics person, analytics person who goes over to the A's. It's surprisingly emotional. Like I think the stuff with Brad Pitt and his family really works, and his daughter, and when they play the song at the end. If Paul was here, he would talk about how it always makes him cry. But yeah, it's great. It's an emotional scene, and like I said, most of all for me, it just gets baseball, and because it's my favorite sport, that's something that I will always love. So Moneyball is fantastic.
Yeah, I rewatched this again a while earlier this year before we put it on the list, but I rewatched it because I hadn't seen it in a while. And yeah, it's really good. It's funny because you talk about, he makes that comment, like, how can you not be romantic about this? And like, it's about like the thing that has sucked like so much of the romanticism out of baseball. It's turned baseball basically into a math equation, but it still has that romanticism about it. And Sorkin, I know a lot of people are super high on his scripts. That it's hit or miss for me. I love it so much. The scenes with the other scouts and him when he's throwing the magnets on the board, he's like just drilling in his head. This is what we're doing. This is what we got to do. And when he's talking, it's like they would have butt, take that out, say thank you. And when he's talking about you're going to play first base, he's like, you'll learn. It's easy. Tell him it's very, very hard.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah. Yeah, like all those moments are so great. It's one of the best like behind the scenes baseball movies because it captures like the business end of it, but also like that personal. Like when he goes in, like when they're all partying and he goes in, he's like, and he's bashes the radio. He's like,
like
losing
bashes the speaker.
Yeah, like so many great that feels like baseball. So yeah, it is I'm always been a big baseball fan. I'm very romantic about the game too. So I love this movie. Everybody else on Moneyball.
Baseball's for fucking nerds. You know what isn't? Math. This movie fucks. Like I really like this movie. I've been meaning to rewatch it. I feel like I like it a lot more on the second time around. I do love the ending song. It's a lot of fun. The fact that Sorkin, I don't know, maybe it's weird. The fact that Sorkin was able to write such like a slow and methodical movie, at least in memory, and still make it really riveting, especially when it's about baseball and fucking math. Holy shit, is that amazing. Like, Sorkin is incredible for pulling that off.
I don't like baseball. I'm a math teacher, and I really like Sorkin written stuff. I've only seen this movie once. I need to see it again, but I really enjoyed it when I watched it. Plus, I was in Oakland when it came out, so that also helped.
Yeah, it's hard not to really like this movie. I like it more and more as it sits with me. The funny thing though about like this show, you brought up Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman and All the President's Men, and I always think of Brad Pitt as like the modern Redford. I think people have said that before. That's not my original thought. But I think that if you put Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman in the roles of Jonah Hill and like when they were young, and you put that movie in the 70s, I think that it would just blend in with every other like high class, like sort of low key drama in New Hollywood. It's one of those. It's like it's a very old fashioned thing. That's what I love about that movie.
Scott, have you ever read Ball 4?
No, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't read it.
Yeah, read that. You'd like that book. Read that. That's the baseball movie I want to see, but read that. You'd love that book.
Okay.
Spence, what are you for your 41?
I mentioned before I like rom-coms. The best part about you get no build-up. I was gonna
Fuck you. We're almost at 3 hours. Just talk about the fucking movie.
I like romance films where there's a lot of romance, comedies where lots of comedies. Crazy with Love is both of those. Great ensemble cast, great like relationships built. Like a really interesting. I think the fact that it's able to pull off not just like a, oh hey, here's fucking Gary Marshall making a shitty holiday movie where all these people are dating each other, but like the fact that they're all interconnected and you're engaged both in the romantic and like the familial relationships and how everything sort of comes together at the end is fantastic. The movie is written so fucking well. Kevin Bacon's a shithead. I want to punch him in the face. He's great in this movie. Everyone in this is fantastic. It also, fun fact, it gave me my most viral tweet with just Ryan Gosling existing. This is just so much fun. This is a movie I think back on and I relive a lot of moments from it in my head. Namely, like the Steve Carell monologue at the end where he's like talking about young love and also like apologizing to his wife. This is just an incredible piece of filmmaking. If you like good rom-coms, watch. If you like good movies, watch it. Emma Stone. Fucking Emma Stone is in this. 10 out of 10.
It's no secret, rom-coms aren't my thing, but I really like this movie. This is a really good one. This is one that gets it right. The characters feel real. You feel connected to them. I love Everybody's So Perfect cast. Emma Stone. This is your good Emma Stone movie for the week, Spence. She's okay. It's not good then. She's so good. This Ryan Gosling is so perfectly cast. He plays that character so well. His relationship with Steve Carell like shouldn't work. Like it should feel really fake and forced, but like the two of them just pull it off. And Carell's so good in his arc, and just watch it, what he goes through. Yeah, it's really good. I love the relationship between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, and like they're so cute together. They're so fun to watch. You're just rooting for everybody in this movie. Like you want to see everybody in this movie get what they want. It's a lot of fun. It's a sweet movie. Everybody else on Crazy Stupid Love.
The backyard birthday scene is hilarious. It's a great film.
Yeah, it's frustrating because the stuff with the freaking babysitter and the kid is so cringeworthy.
Rough, yeah.
It keeps it from being like a 5-star because so much of it is great. And Ryan Gosling, like this and The Nice Guys, him are just like two of the best comedic performances from the last. He just only needs to do comedies because I don't really find him that great in most dramatic stuff, but comedically he's phenomenal. It's a great movie, and I love the Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. They have like the dance scene or whatever. You think you know where it's going to go, and then it just ends up with them just like laying there, just like giggling about stupid stuff for like 5 minutes. I like that. You don't expect it to go there, and that's cool.
Jake, oh yeah, I don't care about this movie. Sorry.
Zoned all the way out.
Not negative, not positive. I just don't care.
All right. Amaru, give us your 41.
Yikes from earlier episode. It is 1917. So I am one of the people who do not agree with the fact that people say you don't connect with anybody in this film. You connect with those two characters from front to back. I love the one-shot feel. It was so intense to me. It was one of my if it wasn't for Parasite, I think it was my number 2 favorite film that year, maybe 3. It definitely fought a lot of my comic book movies of just how much I was so invested in that movie from front to back. But also one reason it's on here, it goes hand in hand with one of the most intense movie-going experiences I've ever had, because after watching that film and sitting there like, damn, that was amazing. Holy crap, that just went front to back. It was so good. I opened my phone and see Kobe Bryant died. So I cannot unlink this movie with the intensity I felt right after seeing that movie. So just back to back, just holy shit, what just happened today? Has nothing to do with the film, but it is forever linked together for me because that happened back to back. And I was already like in a, oh my gosh, what did I just watch? Oh my gosh, what did I just find out? So that kind of, I don't know why it also pushes it up, but it just pushes up the intensity of it. because of the emotion I have is intertwined together. But even without that, even the little cameos of I think his name is Andrew Scott, and then Benedict coming in real quick, and then Colin Firth at the beginning. And they don't overshadow, but they're not a worthless cameo. Everything about that film, I just really, really love. And the running down the whatever it is, that scene is an iconic scene from here on out. It will be in every montage from here to eternity.
And I also had this. Yeah, I'm totally with Rue. I just don't get it. Like a lot of times with movies like this, like if you don't emotionally connect to it, I get it. Like, but I usually do. This, I don't get it. Like, I don't get how you aren't compelled by this like exhausting quest of this guy, especially after what happens midway through the movie. And he gets a new motivation to finish the journey. Talking about George Mackay's character Schofield. I just don't get how you're not invested in that. The one-shot technique works incredibly well. The like plane sequence that like is kind of a Vertigo knockoff, but is still awesome, is great, where it crashes like right behind them. To me, like North by Northwest. Yeah, it's late. I'm tired. Not Vertigo. But the Flares sequence is one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a movie. When after he gets knocked out, he walks up the stairs and looks over the stairs, and you see like the flares going off in the background over like those ruins. I remember just watching that in theaters and just being like, oh my God. And then there's the great like transition shot. It goes down, and then everything that happens there. It's an achievement, but it's also a really compelling movie. And at the end, after he tracks down the brother, he just sits there in front of the tree and looks at the photos of his family, like, and then that last little credit thing comes up about Sam Mendes, like, oh, to my grandfather or whatever, who told us the stories. Like, it's one of those you just want to sit with there for a minute, because it's like, I just want to take a second to appreciate what I just watched.
You let out that sigh that you've been holding the entire movie. You're just like,
I really like this movie. I never heard the complaint that you don't connect with the characters, and I don't understand that at all, because you're right on top of them the entire time. Like, I mean, you may not like learn about like their favorite color or anything, but like you're there with them on like a visceral level. You're connected with them. Like the movie, you're tethered to them that entire movie. So the idea of there being no connection is crazy. But yeah, I think it looks great. I think it's the one shot stuff is really good. And I mean, you see the breaks and you see how you can see what's going on behind the curtain, but it still looks fantastic. And I think it really captures like World War I. I think, especially in modern times, is a pretty underrepresented historical period. And I think this does a really great job of like showing, like, it doesn't dwell on it, but it shows you the horrors of that war, where there are the trenches and the no man's land and everything. So yeah, this is this movie's like just a complete experience. It's like beyond just watching a movie. So yeah, I think this is a really solid pick. It's not on my top 100 personally, but it belongs on top 100. Spence and Jake, why do we not have this?
I don't. I'm not in love with this movie. It's good. My favorite thing about this movie is that the fact that it was so financially successful, I think, proves that people are interested in like an average person. It's like, oh, I heard that's like a very cinematic, like they're trying something with a camera in that, and just the fact that general audiences are like, oh, they're doing like a cool camera trick in this movie. It's like, that's a good sign, I think, for people wanting like artistry in movies. I just think that it's more technically, I think it's a little proud of itself for pulling off this kind of ride gimmick. I much prefer a movie like Dunkirk that's all built in the edit with this free flow of creativity in each cut.
Stop.
And yeah, that's just how I feel.
Stop.
You're burying yourself.
We'll get to that.
I respect it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And
fine.
Michael, I'm talking about the version of Dunkirk that isn't an awful movie, which is this one, 1917. So to answer your question, so that takes us to Jake's number 41 to close out for that.
Spence.
Oh, Spence didn't talk yet. Okay, I'm sorry. That's good.
Thanks. Yeah. So I'm like towing both camps. Not really. Just like Jake, like I didn't connect with the characters that much. I think there's more that could have been done there. But Jake, you're fucking dumb for thinking Dunkirk is the better version of this. Dunkirk
It's not
barely
even
works.
close.
This works on like a fundamental level. I just think it's a movie that I'm like very cold to. That like when I watch it in theaters, holy shit, this was so good. And then every time I think about it, it gets worse in hindsight because it's just like simple. I guess like it's a movie that I think is built on the gimmick, and I think that if the gimmick's not there, you don't really have a cohesive movie. Like you're less engaged with it.
We'll get to Dunkirk has been yikes, so we'll get to Dunkirk eventually. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Focus on 1917.
Yeah, I just think it's a movie that you can't say like you're going to remove something from a film and change it because then you do that for fucking everything. But it's a film I don't think really survives it, and that sort of ruins it in hindsight for me.
All right, Jake, close out with your 41.
Okay, my 41. It's a little movie called Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm curious to see if you called it Indiana Jones or...
Oops.
What?
I'm
Nobody had it.
No yikes.
Nobody yikes it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, huh? You put it at 41? Because, yeah, if anything, this belongs higher. Like, it's Indiana Jones. I don't even need to say anything about it. But instead, I guess I'll talk about Karen Allen and how good she is in this movie. Because I don't think she gets enough credit for being, like, basically the perfect, like, like so rarely an action movie like this will get the romantic interest correct in any way. And Karen Allen is just fucking perfect in this movie. And we can talk all day about Harrison Ford. We all know Harrison Ford's great, but yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Karen Allen is amazing in this. Her introduction is my favorite character introduction in a movie ever, and it's later on my favorite setup payoff with the drinking game. Her character is so great. Harrison Ford is just so perfect. I love that opening scene of, they set him up as this guy who knows exactly what he's doing. And as soon as crap hits the fan, he's just running for his life. And that so perfectly encapsulates who this character is. He's like this, like academic nerd parading as this action hero, which is the beautiful thing about that character. And that captures so perfectly. The John Williams score, obviously amazing. This movie, I can go on about. I've talked about this movie before. It's on my top probably 20. Love it so much. I'll talk about Raiders.
I'm gonna go first. I have the worst opinion. Let's get it out of the way. This movie's perfect, and I sort of don't like it for that reason. I saw a video today, which I think actually like encapsulated this perfectly for me, in that no one would care about the Liberty Bell if there wasn't a crack in it. I think that that's sort of how I approach a lot of movies, where I'm told something's perfect, and I watch it, and I'm like, I have no reason to dislike this. But there's just like that, there's not that draw to me. I'm not sitting there and saying, oh, I love this part of the movie, or this is why I'm connecting to it. It's just sort of like there. And I'm cold to it, not in a way that I think it's bad. It's just a movie that I don't think I'll ever have any sort of personal attachment or sentiment to. That goes for every Indiana Jones film. I even saw like that Last Crusade, like, oh, maybe this is it. It's not. I don't know what it is. The franchise and a couple films like it are just films that I am distant from, and I don't think I'll ever love. Not an indictment on it. It's just, I can't explain it.
Go ahead, Chad.
It's amazing. I still like the third one a little bit better. Let's go home.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is better than 1999 Mummy. It's just a part of a couple of franchises that you think would be on my list, but I did not grow up on. So I came to them late and don't have the affinity for. So you'll be getting a lot of what? You don't have this for a couple of movies that should inevitably be coming up later that I do not have. That just happens to be a part of that batch. But it is an amazing, amazing film.
Your opening comment was the right thing to say there, Rue. All right, that's it for tonight. We're almost 3 hours. Let's keep this going. Let's name a winner. It's Scott again. It's. I mean, how can I not? Ladybird, Amadeus. It's. I mean, those two alone are just Nomadland. All the President's Men. Just another really, really solid list. Nothing bad there. Some better than others, but nothing bad. Just strong top to bottom. Number 2 is tight, and I'm giving it to Jake because he had Raiders, which is probably the best movie we talked about tonight, and also he made me watch In the Mood for Love and The Handmaiden. There's 2 new movies that I really, really enjoyed. Very, very close third. Call it 2A is Rue. Rue's list was also strong. Didn't have anything really bad on it. Just Jake had a few higher highs for me personally, but Rue's list wasn't too bad. Spence, you're coming in 4th. Walk Hard sunk you. You didn't have enough to bring you back from that. Bill and Ted, Easy A, Truman Show, Pitch Perfect. Just wasn't enough to dig you out of the hole this time. But we'll see how it goes next time. We're getting down into the dirty 30s next week. We'll see you then.
Going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk, get angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hurt my arm.
And not expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.